But my legs heavy, I don't get it. How come I haven't hit it already? Still working, I'm still learning, I'm still searching, finally earning something, finally turning something called a profit. If I hear you talking shit, don't get caught in it. I'll be popping off and hit your ass, dropping all your shit. Yeah, I promise this, I got promises. You ain't stopping this, cross my shit, you'll be knocked unconscious, bitch. That's the consequence, I got this, I will not quit. Man, I'm on it, honest, I'm gonna launch quick, then I'm gone. It's just a matter of time before I'm over the climb and moving under my prime. Just quit my 9 to 5, I'm rocking and they watching, cause it's shocking. Dropping all these top 10 songs, no stopping. It's time to live my life, it's time to live, not die. Wish I could slow down time and just enjoy the climb.
What up, guys? So like I said, kind of, apologize for the quick shut off earlier, but I felt what was happening wasn't very unnecessary, and I didn't appreciate it. And I'll talk about that in a little bit, but for right now, the panel's already going. We're just BSing about different conspiracies and stuff like that, so we're just vibing. I'll put the hangout out in a little bit, but I'm not gonna have a 10 people talking at once. Not gonna happen anymore. But other than that, guys, let's jump in this conversation they're having right now. All right, guys, we're about to be live in about 2 seconds.
All right.
All right, we're live. We're good.
Cool.
All right.
So JFK, yeah, that was screwed. There's definitely something going on there. 9/11.
It's, but I see. So, I would say 9/11. It's
something screwy again.
Yeah, there's so much that doesn't seem right, and with no explanation.
Right.
Yeah, that's the worst part of it. They made it so they didn't have to explain anything. It just so happens that all the important parts of the 9/11 report are still blacked out, but we're going to put it out to the public.
And then they had the inquiry, and they interviewed, didn't they? They talked to the president, vice president, right? But they had to have all the questions written out prior. Yeah. They had to have their lawyers present.
Yep. And
so
you're muting, and
that's kind of, yeah. Sorry, that's why it's just cars coming by.
Oh, okay.
That's why I'm looking at that and just going, yeah, that doesn't look good.
Hey, because like the first thing when I started looking into it, because I'm like, all right, so right off the bat, if I'm looking into this, I can't. I got to make sure it's something legit. Like I can't come at him with this, because by this time I'm hearing holograms. I'm like, oh god, oh jeez. I'm just waiting for people to go, yeah, Tupac was flying that plane. So what ends up happening is I end up finding out, well, Delta was Delta planes. Well, a month prior, for some odd reason, 5 of Delta's top stockholders sold their stock.
Right.
That's not proof. That's a little bit of evidence,
that's
though.
Just you just go,
Yeah, it makes you go,
and you get enough of those things, and enough people have said about a lot of different things like that, if they're valid or not, and that's how you get the conspiracy. Now, that's different than the flat Earth.
Absolutely.
So, Columbine, all those
that's fine. You can, yeah, that's fine. It can be different than flat Earth, but I guess my question would be, did that, because 9/11 coming to me coming to the truth that something nefarious went on during that day, shook the foundation of my trust in the government. I just want to know, did y'all have that same sort of revelation?
I've heard a lot of it did that for a lot of people. 9/11 was what started them off. It should have been Kennedy, but that's 1963, right? So this is a more recent thing and a more obvious thing and a more
impacted us all
more impactive, yeah.
But the crazy thing is, it wasn't even the first attack, quote unquote, by the Taliban they had already bombed the World Trade Center.
USS Cole.
They had bombed the World Trade Center in the 80s. in the basement, didn't do very much damage. But I mean, this is the second attack. Like they talked about, like it was the first U.S. A terrorist attack, and by far it was. I mean, Koresh. There have been so many different times, and they don't add to it. For one of the big issues I had was people go, well, one of my issues, I know they used 9/11 as a little bit of a crutch to get into the Middle East. And people go, no, they went to Afghanistan. They didn't go to Iraq. And it was like, well, you do realize that the border, the more borders you have, the better. That memorandum that came out with all those places that they said they were going to take over, go and look on a map, it literally surrounds Iran. You got a lot of feedback, Sasha.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Greetings, Sasha.
How you doing?
Hello.
I'm happy you were on the last one. But yeah, it's the one issue that people are looking at was they tried and it didn't work, so they couldn't do it anymore. But the weapons of mass destruction, they tried to link them, and a lot of people.
Well, okay, hold on. Here's my thing with that. When they came back and said that we couldn't find anything, it was damaging. It was damaging to the Bush administration, right?
Especially because someone said they had, but they didn't tell us who. And that plays a big part too. In my mind, if there was, it was a big conspiracy, they would have planted WMDs there. They would have made it happen. They would have said, "Oh, look at this! Here they are." Kind of hard because they have UN. There was UN with them.
That's true. But they could have planted them ahead of time.
But here's the thing: what they didn't.
They could have. It's the U.S. They could have done anything.
What they didn't tell people is they made it seem like informants told them about the WMDs. 4 detainees from the Iraqi army told them about it.
Okay. So
during a plea deal.
Right.
So they go in, and what they don't tell you is that Saddam, and it is documented, Saddam actually was writing back to the United States saying, "Come inspect my facilities."
Yes.
We refused to go there. We told him, "F you, we don't want to." It wasn't until Saddam Hussein said, "If you do not take the sanctions off of me, I will no longer use American dollar on our oil." Now, it's not going to bankrupt us, but it is going to do a serious damage to our economy, period.
Right, but keep in mind that what we're talking about now, and the destruction of the Twin Towers are disparate events.
I think I think they're hand in hand.
Right, but not to be funny, but you think they go hand in hand.
Yes, 100%.
But there's no but there's no concrete evidence.
I'm unable to link them together as needed. Yes, you're right. Yeah, 100%.
So, Sean, you remember? I think it was Brummy or Tommy or whatever the dude's name is. He was asking me to put a percentage on something. I want y'all to put a percentage on. Put a percentage on how much trust do you have in the government or the powers that be? Okay,
well, you have to give me the variant because I don't trust them, but I have to. There is a trust somewhere in there. Even with you trust them to an extent.
You want me to put a percent? I give them about. It's less than 5, man. Like 5%.
Okay. So you trust them 5%. How much do you trust?
Because I know that to tell a lie and to tell a lie, you got to put the truth out there too. So they put some of the truth out there. It's just mostly deception, but that's just
but how about this?
Tell a lie, you got to put some of the truth.
Okay, then I ask this question.
Why?
Hang on.
Wait. Why?
Why is that? This was actually perfect for that.
Lie, the truth.
Okay, but here's the problem.
Comes from the truth. The truth is there. The truth is always there.
Now I'm going to ask you something, and this is far-fetched. This is not a pie. I can't say this is what would happen, but let's just brainstorm on this one. If, let's say, the Trump came on live television, alerts and all, and said, "Hey guys, America, I just want you guys to know there's an asteroid. It's about 3 years away. It is going to hit us, and we're going to die. Do you think they would tell us that or not? And do you think it's a good idea or not to not tell us?
Yeah, I'm not with all the.
No, but
I mean,
but you gotta run with me, man. Just please run with me on this one. I already said this is not solidify your answer for nothing. The brainstorm right here.
See, you're kind of like you're defending them in the fact that
no, stop. Not defending.
I'm
making it clear how it actually does work.
Because if there was mass hysteria,
exactly.
They wouldn't tell people.
And at the same time, I don't trust them.
They can just claim that all the time, though. You see the danger in that? They could just claim that, hey, you guys are too, volatile for this information, so we can't give it to you.
Okay, so
and they can do that with all the information that they want to, and that's dangerous, man.
Okay, but here's the thing. Do you trust the crackhead that is somewhere around that could break into your house and rape you and kill your family? Now, this is very far-fetched, and this is very fucking extreme.
Yeah,
but the idea, but here's the thing. That government you distrust so much, I know for a fact you trust them more than you trust that crackhead.
Absolutely.
So the realization of it is you do have trust in them. Now, where you gauge your 5% or not, it's a very slippery slope.
Because it's like I have to.
Yeah, you have to. You're right.
Some of my trust. Yeah,
and we all understand that.
But it's kind of backhanded trust.
But see, what would my trust for whatever level that is? What would that have to do with anything?
Well, here's the thing: it doesn't.
It has
have
a lot to do with everything
anything,
because I believe that we need to start standing up to the powers.
We are, and I believe that, and you hear me talking all the time about this stuff, so it's not like we're not standing up. Go ahead, Red. I'm sorry.
So okay, it's the idea that government isn't to be trusted. I'm trying to. How much do you trust the government? Okay, I have never met someone who said, I trust everything the government says, always. They are 100% honest. Why, President Trump, I think it's totally beyond his nature to tell even a small fib.
Yeah, but Red, it's like what you said earlier. The lesser of two evils. Eventually, you just choose an evil, man. You know what I'm saying?
Nobody thinks like that.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks.
Well, you can, but then you end up
so
crazy.
Y'all are okay with choosing the lesser of two evils.
Don't say that.
I'm not okay.
Again. Hang on. Say one thing I have to ask you. You can't keep saying how we feel about it because especially I honestly do not know Red's full view on it, but I know for a fact you know damn well that I don't trust him, and I investigate these things. So it's not like there's no trust in the fact that I'm with him like that.
Can I tell you what I do? I trust that there are people like you who don't trust them enough that you are going to dig enough that I don't need to. I don't think every person in the United States needs to to have the same level of distrust.
But at that same point, we all need to know.
All we need is a trust that there are people like you that do distrust the government and will keep them on their toes. Okay, there is a militia. There are people armed to the teeth. Right? I don't need guns. Okay, to be confident that the U.S. military couldn't take over the country because, the country's basically a.
I'm gonna tell you right now, they wouldn't.
They couldn't.
Well, you want to know who will? When martial law if martial law goes into effect, it will not be on military. I thought about this years ago. Anybody who has military family, think about whether or not they detain you in your own home, harm you, or anything that would be thought of as excessive to that extreme. It's not in the movies. Trust me. Even if they started to, they would stop in a day or two.
I guess it depends on the situation. It feels like some kind of extreme situation.
No. But I'm talking martial law, shut everything down. But the realization is, it will be the $1 billion a year paid private armies that the government has. They have no obligation to any country. They have no obligation to humans' rights or what happens to them. All they care about is dollar, and they're trained and conditioned on that dollar. Not the same thing.
I'm going to have to step up here for a second.
Go for it.
I don't know if any of you guys were military. I was, and no. There's such a thing as an unlawful order.
Yes.
And we do not, or when I was in the military, I would not fire on civilians. I don't care if I was ordered to.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's enough people like me in the military
Yes.
that will not stand for that. And the problem is as we get older, we start getting up and have more power in the military. And,
Yeah.
you know, this is just not what the United States Army
Yeah, exactly.
is based on.
Yeah.
We don't swear an oath to an individual. We swear an oath to an idea.
Right.
And we defend that idea.
Yeah, I was on Marine base for 14 years. I was not a Marine, but I was there. I had a civilian contract, so I ended up knowing hundreds of Marines, and not one of see. This is where the distrust thing kind of is differ, and this is where I wave off.
Martial law. You broke martial law.
No. I'm just saying in general,
Okay,
the government tends to try to do whatever they want, but there will always be a limitation to what they can get away with, based on what Bob
Well
just said, and what the Marines that I've talked to. There's always going to be that limitation. Now, what we're doing, and the problem is, and it's not even a problem because it has to. People are going to do it no matter what. Conspiracy theories go too far sometimes, but the idea that there are conspiracies does mean there is reason to believe something like conspiratorial is going on. That in itself, I'm not going to lie to you. I've only met maybe a handful of conspiracy theorists that think like I do about them, where they step 1, 2, and 3 first. I can't do step 10 and then work backwards. Can't do that.
Now, may I jump in?
Absolutely.
Okay, this is because we're talking about flat Earth in general. That's why just about all of us are here. This is where the flat Earth differs from regular conspiracy theories.
Yes.
Essentially, what has been done is you've got the conclusion first, then everything that is done, everything that is said, every thought, every logical conclusion that the flat earther comes to is derived from the conclusion, not from the evidence. So they take the conclusion first and then try to make the evidence fit the conclusion, ignore any evidence, discount any evidence, mock and laugh and spit on any evidence that says that their idea is not true. Okay? And then, so that basically leads to a Debbie, okay, who is absolutely, she's at an impasse.
But why are you talking about Debbie? Like, she's not here.
But no, she's just a good example. She's just an avatar, an exemplar, right? She's just did I lose that right? She's just an example of what happens when you come to that conclusion and nothing that anybody says. So Chris, his name was, prove the Earth is a globe, prove there's a curve. Okay, I said James May, he's a TV presenter. He went up in a high altitude and he looked out and I was watching it and he says, James May goes to the edge of space, BBC, whatever. And then he watched the video. So he looks out and he says, oh, look at that. Oh, it's the Earth curve. And he says to the pilot, do you ever get tired of seeing that? The guy says, no, I really don't. It's beautiful. And James May was trying not to get emotional because he's in a spacesuit essentially. Okay, he can't cry, he can't get emotional because he can't wipe his tears. And so I mentioned James May. The first thing that Chris said was, "Well, it's curved windows. Of course, your eye is curved, and he has curved glass on his helmet." I'm like, wait a minute. This is the very first thing he said. He didn't even look for evidence, nothing. Then what he did, get this? Then what he did is he looked up the plane that James May was in. Next, after he said that it was obviously the curve of the window.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. And Debbie does the same thing.
Hmm?
That is not science. That is not evidence. That is not how you deal with the idea there's a conspiracy. The second thing is there is no evidence of a conspiracy. Nobody ever talks about the 16th century conspiracy that led to all of this, because there simply isn't one shred of evidence that there is actually a conspiracy going on.
Yeah.
It's the conclusion first, and then everything that you do is in support of the conclusion.
I'm going to report that to the reptilian overlords. They will be very pleased, and you will get a bonus.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
That was a good one.
Have you seen Steve Martin in the Muppet movie? Steve Martin played the sarcastic chef.
Yes.
The sarcastic waiter. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Would you like to smell the bottle cap?
Oh, jeez.
Anyway,
Yeah, I don't believe in no reptilian crap like that. Like I said,
Very
9/11
few.
be enough for you.
You understand that I wasn't suggesting you did. That was just a joke.
These people
Yes, it
don't
was a
have
joke.
my best interest in mind. That's
A joke
not
is
them to do that alone on its.
Was that a joke? Is that a joke? Is the story of the humorous climax? So what was that? That was sarcasm, irony, right? Whatever. Never mind.
Yeah, no, but it's like it's throwing shade on flat
being
Earth. Like they believe every conspiracy that's out there, and it's just not true.
Wait, no. So
Flat
here
Earth is the ultimate conspiracy.
here's the problem, Zeke. You have to notice that when you're here, you're not answering anything. You're asking, and that's not. I don't mind that at all. To tell you the truth, at all. But
The only question y'all ask is, "Where's the model?"
no, I know absolutely not. Okay. Explain. If it's not gravity, what is it?
I told Bob what I thought it was earlier.
I wasn't here.
We're all in an electromagnetic field, and the relationship that we have in this electromagnetic field may have something to do with the way how fast things fall.
Okay, but here's the problem with that.
And the Earth is an attractor. It's the negative. It's the Earth is negative, and mostly everything else is a positive. We're attracted to the Earth in that relationship, I think.
Well, the issue, and I was just thinking about that before I started. If it was magnetism at all,
it's not magnet. It's not the way you're thinking.
well, that's what I'm asking you. Okay, explain.
Well, it sounds like help for airline control.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
Can you explain it to me again then?
Sorry about that, guys.
Very good.
It's not like clinging two magnets together, like that type of attraction.
So what is it? Electromagnet? That means it's electricity.
Like I said, I've seen experiments where people charge things that are non-ferrous, like a straw, and they can move it with another non-ferrous material, like wood. You know what I'm saying? And those two things having some kind of relationship where they can move each other. Two bodies moving each other that are not magnetic.
It'd probably be the minerals and the there's still stuff in stuff.
I'm just saying, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be this magnetic thing that thinking of.
I'm not gonna say I know about it. I don't at all. I actually
liked Bob's explanation of that. Is that at some point in time there are enough scientists who come to that conclusion and then say, hey, wait a minute, it could change. So it's not mass. Who knows? 100 years from now, they could laugh at the idea that mass attracts mass. The source, though, of that, the source of the doubt of gravity, hasn't come from a scientific, isn't coming from a scientific source. It's coming from conspiracies.
That's not true. There are many theories of gravity. Many.
Okay, but
so one thing I just want to say:
destroy gravity. Flat Earth has to completely get rid of gravity. It has to. So they're going to look at that and look at any possibility other than gravity. The problem is that no one is looking in Flat Earth, is looking in any depth at all.
I'll tell you something about Flat Earth and gravity. Flat Earth must discount gravity.
Yes, exactly.
Because if gravity existed, you can't have a Flat Earth.
Right.
The same reason that they must discount. They must deny space, because if space existed, the satellites that we see in the night sky could theoretically be in space. If there are satellites in space, they'll have cameras on them. If they have cameras on them, they're going to take pictures of the freaking Earth. All right? Therefore, they have to deny that space exists. The same reason that they have to claim that every single photograph from space is CGI.
And all astronauts are actors.
They cannot accept them, because they know that if they crack at all on any of those things, their entire theory goes away.
So you believe that spending, whatever, let's just throw a number, $40 million a day to try to, in the future, 200 years from now, land on Mars and inhabit Mars.
Wait. Of that money,
NASA's budget is
of that money,
a penny. NASA's budget is 0.5%.
It's a waste.
0.05%.
But it goes
compared to the military is 20%.
Hang on. We can talk about that. You want to talk about that?
What it is that what it is that the budget for NASA isn't what you're thinking of it. Because if you every year, the government gives
them.
them $289 million, something like that. But that branches out to like 100 different space agencies and not agencies. What do you call
it's
them?
a waste of money.
But Sean,
Why?
may I make a point on NASA's name?
Why is it a waste?
NASA's name.
Yeah.
Here's the point on what NASA, the money NASA gets. NASA is National Aerospace and
Aeronautics.
Aeronautics and Space. Thank you for that. Aeronautics and Space Administration. Aeronautics.
Yeah, they do everything.
And
it's
space.
not just space.
Aeronautics.
You want to know something that NASA does that saves your life, Chief? One of the things NASA did was study icing on airframes in flight. And anti-icing.
Well, the specific thing that I brought up was like trying to go to Mars and stuff like that. Like that part of it.
Wouldn't that be absolutely wonderful? And hopefully we'll be there within the next 30 years.
Put it this way: if they didn't,
I hope so.
if we didn't have that in our brains, in our wants, like that's not. If we didn't explore, you understand that we'd all be dead of overpopulating one small area.
Okay, so you believe that we are going to be overpopulated one day?
But you just jumped topics right there.
That has to do with
I believe.
How is that a belief if the data clearly shows that?
Hang on. The best way to explain it is 120 years ago, the technology was nothing compared to what it is now. Correct?
Correct.
So at what point do you expect them to be able to get to space then?
I'm saying space exploration is a waste of money. That is
no.
Why?
You believe it is, but
why?
Scientists who have a better
I
idea.
believe overpopulation is.
I did not say overpopulation was the reason.
What other reason are we going to try to terraform Mars?
We didn't say anything about terraforming Mars.
Those are articles. Those aren't. No scientist has once said we're going to Mars. We're terraforming it. Boom.
They don't talk about going to Mars.
Yes.
Elon Musk says that.
Yeah.
Where did you come up with terraforming Mars? Where's the plan to terraform Mars?
Yeah, they just talk about that, man. No one ever. That's not a man.
Where is the plan to terraform Mars? Answer the question.
That is not. He answered that. It is not. It's not terraforming.
Do we have a probe on Mars? Yes or no?
Yes.
Several.
Yes.
Why?
Rovers. We have a rover and.
What's the reason?
We have landers too.
To explore and know. That's
the boldly go where no man has gone before.
To infinity and beyond, man. They're selling y'all. Yeah.
You know why? You know why we do that?
Fund NASA, or at least that.
You know why we have an urge to explore? Because it's in our nature as human beings. We want to know what's on the other side of the hill.
Well,
if we didn't explore, we'd still be in Africa. And we'd all be monkeys jumping in trees.
God damn it. Wow. Why would you say monkeys? Huh?
Apes.
You know, you're just fueling the fire for him. You know that, right?
Yeah, that's a theory too. The out of Africa theory.
I would say, okay. I would say, I would tell you that. No.
Okay, no. We're going to go ahead and do this.
Yeah, evolution is not a theory. And I can show you.
Please
proof.
explain to me the difference between a scientific theory and a scientific law.
Oh boy.
The law has been gone through scrutiny, I guess.
No.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Okay, wait. Stop 1 second. Seek, please. Dude, I like you as a human being. Okay, you've been studying this for how long? At some point, please, you have to progress in your understanding. I'm hearing these things. For 3 years, I've been hearing this. And flat earthers saying the same thing. And aren't looking at things like the difference between a law and a theory and how come you still don't know?
You're saying the law is repeatable
No, I'm not.
I want to know
what's the difference between a law and a theory in science?
The law, the way I understand it, the law has been something that has been put through scrutiny and can be repeated and at least be observed, maybe not explained, but
okay. Let me see if I can help you out a little bit. There is a law of gravity, and there is a scientific theory of gravity. Can you explain the difference between the two?
We talked about this a month ago.
We talked about this 20 freaking minutes ago.
Hey, here's the thing. I don't mind. Again,
it's painful.
It is painful, but I also need to hear this shit over and over again so I can
go on,
retain
let's
it.
do it.
All right.
Like look, mass attracting mass is the theory.
That's not that. Okay, never mind.
Mass attracting mass is a theory.
No, the universal law, the law of gravity.
9.8 meters per second squared is the law.
Downward. That's a law. It's measurable. It does not change. It's not open to discussion anymore. It's a measured event, like my shoe size.
Okay,
the theory of gravity
what are you getting at?
is what's causing it. So, what is a law? Why is a theory? And a theory, as you said, undergoes extensive scrutiny.
Okay, so why are you disagreeing with what I just
said? You demonstrate support for the theory.
In science, if you can find one counterexample to a theory, one situation where it doesn't work, then that's it. It's done.
Sorry, so I said out of Africa was a theory. What do you? What's wrong with that?
I can tell you now.
That can be supported by facts.
How?
We can look at migration patterns and DNA. And
no, he's correct. He's correct.
Yeah.
Evolution is a theory. Evolution is a theory. It has tremendous evidence behind it.
I can show you tests right now that show it.
I can't tell you for certain that that's exactly what happened. The fact that we have a downward acceleration of 9.8 meters per second square everywhere on the surface of the Earth is a law.
That doesn't mean that it's a ball.
You see, this is the problem that you run into.
That's not
it doesn't, though.
Yeah, but you see, here's the problem that you run into with flat Earth. You have an absolute inability to connect the dots.
You've got the conclusion.
If there is a downward acceleration, that mandates that certain things happen. It mandates that when I drop a pen, it hits the floor. It also mandates that any mass that is greater than 300 miles in diameter will collapse into a sphere.
Okay, so what's that acceleration doing to, say, water?
Holding it on the sphere.
How can? Oh, it's holding it on.
Yeah. Of course it is, just like it's holding you on.
We've been through this.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't new. All right. I'm not even going to bother talking about it. Go to my channel, watch the video on gravity, learn something. All right. I can't keep saying it again and again and again. All right.
You just admitted that you don't know what the cause of gravity is.
That's not the admission.
Wait.
Hold on.
I didn't say anything of the sort. I said that the theory
right,
means that we're trying to understand why something happens, not what's happening, but why it's happening. That is a theory. We have tremendous evidence for that theory.
Let me ask you this then. Is that theory taught as fact?
Excuse me?
Is that theory taught as fact?
It's taught as the best theory that we have.
No, that's not.
I know to answer that. Hang on, see. I know to answer that. I know to answer that.
It's the best explanation we have.
No, it is. It's the best explanation we have with the best evidence behind it.
It's not supposition, presupposition. It's not guess.
The theory isn't the proof. The theory of the evidence. The evidence is the crux of it. You're making it seem like, do we believe in this theory? Is this theory taught as fact? The theory isn't taught as fact. The facts are taught is what's presenting the theory.
If I can explain what Sean's talking about there.
God.
Hi, boss.
Craig.
So, how are you doing, man?
Not bad, mate. So we've got, for instance, evolution is a theory, but the theory of evolution is the corroborating data that backs up the fact that evolution is a fact. The same way that gravity is a fact, but the theory of gravity is all the data and experiments that we have that show that this is not just a hypothesis, but a scientific theory. And a scientific theory is a very different thing to just a theory. In science, we use the term scientific theory when we mean fact.
Until someone comes along with a better explanation This is what we've got. So the Earth is a sphere until someone can demonstrably prove otherwise.
No, wait.
Space exists.
It doesn't.
Come up with a counterexample.
Hang on. It doesn't need to be that extreme. Give me.
They just have to come up with a counterexample that works.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Because here's the thing.
Come up with a counterexample that debunks the globe.
This doesn't matter. No, they don't. You guys are asking way too much of the obvious answer of they can't. Just want 3 things that work together in the system. That's it. That's all I ask. I've been asking that since I became a glober again. 3 things. That's it. All you need is 3 things. You'll convince me to go back. That's it. 3 things that work together as we observe it. To this day, no one's even come close.
See, you're nicer than I am. I put up six pieces of evidence that supported that the Earth rotated, and I said you don't get to just try and cause doubt on one of them. You have to disprove all 6.
But here's the thing.
And you have to give me an alternate explanation for what causes all 6.
Well, that's the
Isn't
thing.
it not only an alternate explanation, but a better explanation? So if you're trying to replace the heliocentric model, you need to present a model that not only can make the same predictions, but can make better predictions.
Yeah, I don't have a model, so.
Well, you're in luck.
Model for me, so.
I don't know. And I've said this, guys, and I've said this before. So you can find.
Yeah, we got one
I don't
right
expect
here.
you to. No, here's the thing. I don't need a model. Flat Earth.
I made one.
No one needs a flat Earth model to ask for a flat Earth model. You need a system that would create a model. So let's start at the system first.
Yeah, all you're doing is explaining, a model.
No, I'm not. I'm telling you.
Yeah. You want 3 things. That's pretty much a model, man.
Okay, no. What I'm asking for are observations. What those observations create is a system which then create a model. I'm not asking for a model. I'm not even sidetracking for a model. I'm asking for the things you would do to have the conclusion that it's a flat Earth with evidence. That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking anything more at all than what
Sean,
you would expect.
What are the 3 things? Maybe I'm missing a point there.
No. They would have to come up with 3 flat Earth observations that work together as our system works, how we're able to create a model because observations.
So you want them to replace our explanations with 3 explanations that work.
They wouldn't even need to. Well, they would be having to explain how it would work differently, but it would be their flat Earth observations. I asked, and Zeke, I know you got to remember I asked this. You said we do not look at things the same, and I asked you 3 questions, and every question we agreed before I moved on that we observe that the exact same way, which means if we do see things, we are able to observe things the same way, then you cannot possibly come with an observation different from mine. You know what I mean? We've had this conversation about gravity for days, and it's not even that you don't believe in gravity. It's that I can tell you the way a wave works has gravity to do with it, and you say that's not enough. You're literally not even thinking. Okay, well, what makes that wave? Why does that wave then go flat? Well,
don't say flat, Sean. Don't say flat. Please don't say flat.
Flat, level, it does not matter.
Locally, it's flat.
The realization is that
literal explanation of gravity.
Well, the thing, hang on, because the thing is that you can't. What you do is you act like gravity and wind are battling each other. And the realization is that wind is the only motherfucker that loses.
Representing me now.
Can we not go to the waves again, please?
I love that. That's my favorite one.
All I did was use wind as an example of being a force. But we're saying that water. Mm-hmm. Okay, hold on, Sean.
Okay, you're right. Go ahead.
The behavior of water, when a force acts on it, it shows the effect. That's all I was saying. And if you're going to say gravity is a force like wind, which shows an effect of waves.
It's not like wind, but they are forces.
Gravity has on water. That is my only question.
Again, they're not, just to clarify, they're not the same force. They're not they're not in the same category, but they are both forces. Okay, go ahead, Craig.
Are we denying that gravity is a force here?
Yes.
Is that what? Right. Okay. So the way that we can prove that gravity is a force is purely by the fact that there is an acceleration. Acceleration requires a force.
What's the effect that this force has on water?
It gives it a 9.8 meters per second accelerating downward force, like everything else on Earth.
that can be observed.
What does that make water do?
What does it make water do? Move towards the center of mass, the same as everything else. It doesn't have a different effect on water because water is water. Gravity will literally have an effect on every single thing.
So, Craig,
and the gravitational.
So what he's asking, let me clarify this for you, because he's done this for like at least 8 streams now.
One of y'all at a time, man.
No, I'm talking to Craig because I don't think he understands what you're asking. So wind, we can see the effects. We can't see wind, but we can see the effects.
Yeah.
Gravity, we can't see gravity, but we can see the effects. But what he's asking you is show me gravity. When you tell him you can only show him the effect of gravity, he will ask you on what, or show it, or what is it, and you'll explain it to him, and he'll say no.
All right.
Now,
I can take this.
Okay.
Go.
Not a problem. Now, do you have a scale at home? Now, you know that you as a physical being have a property to you called mass. Now, weight is mass times acceleration. If you have no acceleration, you have no weight.
Okay. So here's another problem.
Force was mass times acceleration.
So Bob, this is another
weight
problem.
Is as well.
This is another problem.
Okay.
Weight is a force.
Hang on, Zeke.
Okay.
Zeke,
Okay.
Can you feel speed, Zeke?
Oh no, please.
No, Sean.
No, because
right,
Bob.
No, let me finish up then.
Okay.
Let me finish up.
Well, you added that.
I have a coffee cup in my hand right now.
Okay, go ahead.
I have a coffee cup in my hand. I just stood it on the desk in my office. Is there a force holding that coffee cup on the desk? The coffee cup has mass.
I would call it a resistance. That's what I would call it.
What's it? There's a resistance. What is
like the coffee cup is really trying to sink, continue sinking, but the table's resisting that.
Why is the coffee cup trying to sink? Is there a force trying to move the coffee cup? An acceleration?
Density.
It can't be density. Density isn't a force.
So y'all getting off of the talk about the water, man.
No, I'm asking you right now. Is there an acceleration acting on this coffee cup?
I'm not denying the acceleration. That's a force, right? Force is mass times acceleration, right?
Correct. The coffee cup has mass. It has weight. Is there a force holding that coffee cup on my desk?
I just told you, it's resistance.
Okay. Well, is there resistance above the coffee cup?
And like I told you, but I don't deny the fact that there may be a propagation of things falling at the same rate. Okay, and you calling that gravity?
Well, no, that's measured. Okay. That's not in question. That's my shoe size.
But if it's a force,
that is an acceleration moving downward. Combine that with a mass, you have a force. Water has mass. There is a downward acceleration on that water. There is a force acting upon the water as a result.
What's the water doing as the result of the force acting?
Going to its lowest state of potential energy. So that it can't go any further down.
Level on top? Is that what it does?
Gentlemen, with respect.
Hold on. Does that force make water level on top, or does it make it ball up and turn into a sphere?
It makes it level.
Of course.
All over the earth. It pulls.
That's why they call it sea level.
Makes it level. However, it balances out with the different oceans and the different streams and rivers and lakes. It balances everything out.
In the same way that if you're 30,000 feet up in an airplane, no matter where you are on the planet, you're still going to be 30,000 feet above the ground. You know, that measurement of being level.
Not me. I don't have oxygen. I can't go more than about 12 and a half.
The issue is not that gravity is doubted. The issue is that in order for flat Earth, like Bob said, in order for flat Earth to be true, gravity has to go. But nobody is studying an alternative to gravity in the flat Earth community.
But when I observe, don't get to the model thing. When I observe level water, where it looks like a sheet of glass, I see a reflection on the top of this water. there's those two forces going on, and they're equilibrium. They're equilibrium.
What forces?
The force of the centrifugal force from the spin.
Yes.
And gravity pulling it back in.
Yes.
Okay, but gravity supersedes that equilibrium. And
yes.
Okay, so what's that doing to the water? What's that?
Well, the force of gravity equals about 665 newtons, whereas the centrifugal force trying to throw something off at the equator is only 2.35 newtons.
Okay, so the remaining 4 or whatever that is, what does that affect on the water?
The remaining several hundred is that the effect is that it keeps it at its lowest state of potential energy, like Bob said.
And it bulges at the equator.
Let me try and explain this to you. All right. You understand that the force of gravity goes straight down, correct?
What's the evidence of that?
It's a measurement. I don't need any further evidence than that.
Yeah, you do. That's
the force of gravity goes straight downward.
What's the evidence for that?
What is the force? What's the direction of the centrifugal force? Would you agree that it is in the opposite direction? Would you agree centrifugal force goes in the opposite direction to the downward force of gravity?
You're talking to me? Yeah, like I'm trying to give you that. I'm trying to give you that. And they
okay, so great.
Go ahead.
All right. So you know that they're opposing forces then. There is going to be a point where the force of the centrifugal force pulling objects away from the Earth will balance the force of gravity pulling it towards the Earth.
Okay, but gravity supersedes that force.
All right, no.
Centrifugal.
Please. If the centrifugal force exactly balances the force of gravity, would you agree that since there's zero force acting on it, it's weightless?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds...
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds about right, I guess.
All right, good. Now, in order to have the centrifugal force balance gravity exactly, the Earth needs to rotate every 84 minutes. If it rotates every 83 minutes, stuff will fly off the equator. If it rotates every 84 minutes, gravity will start winning that tug of war and things will come in. We rotate once every 24 hours. It's about 3%.
Well, yeah, 2.35 newtons to 600 odd newtons.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very tiny amount. But the thing about it is if you measure a weight, like a chunk of metal, at the equator, it will weigh less than here at 45 degrees north on the same scale with the same chunk.
Yes, we have evidence of that.
Yes, and I mean, we've got pictures of it.
You have to locally calibrate scales when you get them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't take a scale from the North Pole and use it at the equator because you wouldn't get the right measurements.
Yep. There's only one kind of scale that you can use in both places. Does anybody know what that is?
Sorry, that was my phone.
An actual balance, where you take a known weight and compare it to another weight. Those things there will still work. But if you use a spring scale like that thing Wolfie had, if he balanced it and calibrated it at Perth, Australia, it will weigh more in Canberra and less at Broome, which is closer to the equator than Perth. Canberra is further away.
So this all sounds all hypothetical and theoretical.
Well, no, we've got actual evidence of that.
No, it's not.
All of the above. Sir,
who is that?
They're physical measurements, these things. It's physical measurements. It's not assumptions. These
and it's not open to your debate. It's a physical measurement.
Yeah,
all right.
The same way we cannot debate whether there is a downward accelerating force of 9.8 meters per second squared. That's a fact.
So to add on to what I was saying about the gravity, and we get to this equilibrium point, that's two forces going on, and it's equaling out.
Yes.
But what about naturally on the ball, that water would want to naturally run off of that ball. So once we get to this equal point,
no. How is it going to run off the ball?
Okay, so could you demonstrate to me water on a ball? What would that do? It would naturally
just lay there.
Ball, right?
Yeah. Well, what you're asking us to do
run to
is
the bottom of it at least, right?
Yeah, that's because doing that experiment on Earth, the Earth's gravitational field is much stronger than the gravitational field of the ball you're trying to pour water onto. So, of course, in that instance, it's going to run off the bottom.
Well, no, I mean, if he wants an experiment, here you go, the Atlantic Ocean. That is water on the surface.
You
of the
guys
sphere.
know that that's pretty much like a cop out. Like
no, it's not a cop out. What you're doing, sir, is a cop out, and I'll tell you why. Hang on, just a second. What you're doing, sir, is a cop out, and I will tell you why. The only way to conduct that experiment is to use a ball large enough to have its own gravitational force on it. And
so then
you know
can
that.
never prove it then, right? So then you can never actually show that in real world.
Well, what we can show is the
admitted
fact
Who is that
mass-
that keeps piping up in the background?
Someone called Chris. But Chris, what we can show, and Bob actually did an amazing explanation of how we can show it in the video we did together, is that mass attracts mass.
How did you do that?
Cavendish experiment.
He explained how the Cavendish
experiment.
It absolutely is. We're not going to debate what is and isn't an experiment.
Okay, so you hear that? They don't want to debate facts. That's fine.
Okay, Chris.
No, we don't want to debate idiots. There's a difference.
What's the hype? Hold on? Can we talk about that? Let's talk about Cavendish. What's the observed phenomenon in Cavendish?
Gravity.
We've been over this.
Hold on. I want either Fight the Flat Earth or Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob said gravity.
All right, I'll take it. I got it.
Bob, I wanted this one.
You want it?
Yeah, I like this one.
Go for it.
Right.
Go for it, Craig.
It's yours.
Hey,
what are your questions?
What's the observed phenomenon in
Gravity.
Cavendish? That's not an observed phenomenon. What's the observed phenomenon?
Gravity.
What do you mean by gravity?
Mass
Gravity.
attracting mass. What we are observing is the effect of mass attracting mass.
Where does mass attract mass? Where does mass attract mass?
In that experiment. That's what we're trying to say. That the experiment is set up in a particular way. That the force of gravity of Earth and the downward accelerating force is acting equally on the entire experiment, which gives us the ability to test the force of mass attracting, the effect of mass attracting mass on a horizontal plane, because we know gravity is acting equally on the entire thing pulling down. And that's why you have the independent variable and a dependent variable of the weight of the mass and the distance between the masses.
So what's your hypothesis then?
Well, the hypothesis is that mass attracts mass.
No, that's not the hypothesis. The hypothesis is in the form of an if then.
All right, stop it. That's it.
No.
That's it. It's a measurement.
It's not an experiment.
Oh, shut up.
Doesn't need to be an
Chris.
experiment.
An observed phenomenon, a hypothesis, and an experiment is what you're using to test the hypothesis.
Great. What's the observed phenomenon, Chris?
I literally just went through that.
Yeah,
We're going in circles.
Okay, hold on. No. They created a device that then showed an observation. A hypothesis test.
No, define an experiment.
No, it's okay. So what's the observation? Okay. So what's the observation?
Mass attracting mass.
Where does that happen?
In the Cavendish
Everywhere in the
experiment.
Universe.
That's not a hypothesis. That's an observation. Things falling is an observation.
No.
Please do not entertain this guy.
No, please.
He's just doing the Nathan Oakley.
He's
debate
just
on
doing
this.
the Nathan Oakley, and
It's the
look,
Oakley.
Well,
dude, this is a measurement. That's it. We're done.
Yeah, it is a measurement that I agree with.
Fine, then we're done.
What did I do? Okay, you're not letting me talk. I thought I was going to talk.
Then leave,
Dr.
please.
Bob.
Then
Thank
leave,
you.
Chris.
Thank
You're
you very
not
much.
contributing here.
No, it was me too. Okay, it's your channel.
Okay, here's the problem, okay? The observed phenomenon is things falling. So then what they do is they say, oh, well, then we go to Cavendish. What? Yeah, that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying.
Chris, I've got to ask you this question. What do you think the Cavendish experiment was actually for?
I know what it was for, but that doesn't...
Well, yeah, no, can you tell me, can you tell me what it was for?
Well, it was to try and see if mass attracts mass.
No, the Cavendish experiment was to weigh the Earth. Yeah, the Cavendish experiment was actually to weigh and figure out the density of the planet.
I already told you I did 3 weeks worth of Mark Sargent. I have no tolerance for bullshit anymore.
Okay, well, I did my own Cavendish. I did my own Cavendish test.
All right, I'll be quiet.
Dr. Bob's a jerk, but whatever.
Piss off.
So I keep asking for the observed phenomenon. I heard someone say things falling, and then you said no. So what's the observed phenomenon?
It's not an experiment. We don't need to have an observed phenomenon.
Wait a minute. You all, at the very beginning, I got berated because I said it wasn't an experiment, and y'all said it was.
No, we said it was a measurement.
Okay, great. So then it's not proving mass attracting mass. It's not proving gravity.
Yeah, it is. It actually is.
It is actually, yeah. Yes, it is.
It's measuring how much mass attracts. It's measuring how much mass attracts mass as part of a measurement of the density of the Earth.
That is okay. So I've done Cavendish.
No, you haven't.
I have a video of it. Yes. Why would you tell me I have or haven't?
Great. All right. Well, then you don't mind asking a few. You don't mind answering a few questions about how the Cavendish is set up, then, do you?
I mean, you didn't even know that the Cavendish was.
All right. Let's go ahead and start. Let's go ahead and start with what is the independent.
There is no.
What is the dependent variable on the Cavendish experiment?
There is none.
What is the dependent variable? What is varied on the Cavendish experiment, and how is that measured?
Wait a second. Is it the Cavendish experiment? Because I was just told.
I'm asking you a question. Don't interrupt. Answer the question. What is being varied, and how is an effect of that varying being measured on the Cavendish experiment? Which is the name of the thing?
Okay, first of all, I didn't interrupt, and second of all, it's not an experiment, so there is no independent or dependent variable.
What is the dependent, what is being varied in the Cavendish experiment, and how is that variability resulting in a measurement?
There is no independent or dependent variable.
Okay, so he doesn't know how the Cavendish is set up.
I've seen you on Oakley's show do this.
Shut up about Oakley. I played with him.
Yeah, quit calling it an experiment. It's not. There's no independent...
Wait, the Cavendish experiment is not an experiment?
No, it's not.
So why is it called the Cavendish experiment?
I can call it the Cavendish bullcrap if I wanted to. Who cares? Yeah, you have a what's called you can use what's called a torsion bar or torsion rod. You hang a string in the middle of it. You put two weights on the end as counterbalance, and then you put two other weights off the apparatus, like two bowling balls or two other ball objects next to it.
All right, no, I've got some very specific questions for it. All right, so Chris, since you're the expert on the Cavendish, we'll just call it the Cavendish.
Yeah.
Now,
Thank you.
do you have, are these masses of different sizes and are they paired?
Well, of course, the masses can be different sizes. I don't know what you mean by are they paired.
Are they symmetrical?
I mean, they should be.
Okay, all 4 of them, 2 of them, what?
All 4 of them.
Okay, well, that wasn't the way it was set up, but technically I guess you could do it that way. How do you find the 0 point on the torsion balance?
You can use a level.
Oh my God.
This is amusing. You make sure you tell Nathan all about this. Okay?
Dude, I just face palmed myself and actually hurt. Honestly.
Now, I'm going to ask you again.
Yeah,
I will tell you, but first, no, I'm gonna bring Mr. Cavendish expert Chris and his little buddy Nathan over the coals on them. All right, Chris, I want you to tell me how you balance the torsion wire.
The wire or the bar?
Well, the bar is attached to the wire.
That's
How
right.
do you balance that to find the 0 point on it?
I used a level.
Okay, so you use a level. How cute.
Yes.
How do you balance the masses so that the wire isn't twisting you, twit?
There's no way to balance it 100%.
All right, I'm going to ask you one more time. How do you balance the twist and get the 0 point on the twist, on the Cavendish setup?
Are you talking about just preventing it from twisting?
You're the expert on it. You tell me. How do you balance? How do you find the 0 point on the twist?
You can't, because it's impossible, because it never stops twisting.
That's literally how.
All right.
You're right, and it's wrong.
Now, next, I'm going to tell you how to do it.
Can I face palm
So
too?
please listen carefully. You generally have 2 paired masses. You have 2 large ones and 2 small ones. The 2 small ones are on the torsion bar. You set them up so that they are 90 degrees to each other. And that is your 0 point. Then, when you're ready to do the experiment, you move the large masses closer to the small ones. The small mass is attracted to the large mass and moves towards it. That movement towards it is countered by the torsion. And when it reaches the central point and the point of balance between the 2 of them, you can measure the amount of torsion, and that will equal the amount of attraction between the small mass and the large mass. Now, you'll understand that there's quite a calculation, and I will not ask you to calculate it out, but I'm sure you did all the math. Is that about right?
The setup is right, yeah.
Okay, well then why did you use a level?
Okay, everything he just said is everything I did. He didn't say anything different than what I did. Yeah.
You're right. I only spoke in English. Are there any English people out there that confirm that I spoke in English?
I'm pretty sure I understood you, Bob.
Jawohl.
You know why? Because I actually know what I'm talking about. Now, what is the purpose of the Cavendish experiment? How did it determine the density of the Earth?
Okay, hold on a second. So, Sean, are you saying that when I first started, I didn't explain the exact same thing?
No, you didn't.
No, not even in the
close.
slightest.
I'm looking.
All right. No, Chris, I'm not done with you yet, Chris.
Okay, hold on, Sean. Can you
Now,
you need to make
no,
Dr.
this is my moment right now. I've had 14 episodes of Mark Sargent, and my give a shit factor is gone. Now I'm going to sit down and ask you another question, Chris. How do you determine the weight and density of the Earth using the Cavendish experiment?
You can't. It's bullshit.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
so you don't know. All right.
Okay, I can read that space people go to space. Like that's a terrible argument.
Yeah, they do. I'm doing.
Right, I'm sorry, but I've got to call you out right now. You are committing the genetic fallacy of I haven't been and done it myself, so it can't be real, and that is not acceptable.
Can you post a link for that, Sean? Because we might need that because we're in the middle of a experiment that's actually doing what.
All right, so Chris.
Laser test.
All right, Chris.
Laser test.
I'm not done with you yet, Chris.
Sean asked me.
What is the formula for weight?
Sean, do you want the answer to your question or not? Dude, the Cavendish experiment is not hard to set up. Don't let Dr. Bob fool you with
Chris, I've got to call you out, Chris. Chris, you didn't even know what the Cavendish experiment was for.
And I did it off the top of my head.
I said everything he said. You have a torsion bar. Let me say it again. Let me say it again to be clear. No, you have a torsion bar. On each end of the torsion bar, you have counterweights, right? Two steel ball bearings or balls, okay? In the middle of the torsion bar, you put a wire or a string or some thin piece of material to hang it from an apparatus. Then you put counterweights on either side of the ball bearings. That's it.
No, it's not it.
Sorry, can I ask you a question?
You couldn't even balance the torsion bar to begin with. You have no understanding of what you're doing.
Chris, can I ask you one question? How do you figure out the the torsion coefficient of the wire?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same question.
Well,
I was going to make him. I was going to make him cite.
Well, that has everything to do with it, because that's one of the things you need to know. So, if you're setting up the Cavendish experiment, one of the things you're going to need to know is the torsion coefficient of the wire you're using. So, can you please tell me how you figure out the torsion coefficient and how you apply that to your setup of the Cavendish experiment?
All I know is I used a 12-pound.
No, that's not what I asked. I asked you to tell me how you figure out the torsion coefficient and how you applied that.
I don't need to know that.
Oh, right. You don't need to know. You don't know how to do the Cavendish experiment. That's fine. We don't need to listen to you anymore, Chris, because you don't know what you're talking about.
So they can't hear me because I just muted myself on the Hangout.
Well, I'm sorry, but it needs math, and you've just completely proven that you do not know the slightest thing about what you're even talking about.
He doesn't know the Cavendish experiment.
Okay, well, and you're the guy that went on my channel
and he doesn't know how it works. Therefore, he cannot be here discrediting it at all or claiming to have done it.
His $100 challenge is to show something similar to the sun going from east to west.
And here's the problem. One, you don't have a location. Two, Fight Fire, I commend you for not doing it because it would have been just feeding the fire to crap. You gave us an observation. And this is why, because you took off earlier, and it frustrated me that he did this. So you show us a video of a 24-hour, or you tell us it's a 24-hour Arctic sun being taped, or supposedly, and your $100 challenge was for someone to recreate this. Then you gave me a Rob Skiba link, which you were going to shows me that yes, on a flat Earth, the sun does light up the bottom of the clouds. But your experiment that you showed me is not an experiment that would ever be used to find out if that was even true either way. The sun has never in your life.
I can still do it though.
The sun.
I can still do it.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the video he showed me. He showed me a Rob Skiba video where the flashlight, or first of all, the camera was on the table, right? The flashlight was only a few inches above the table, and then he moves it backwards. And I said, Chris, when do you ever see the sun moving in a straight line away from you? And he told me, why can't it be an experiment?
No, I didn't. It's not an experiment.
Again, okay, you know what? Guys, I'm going to go on mute because I'm going to go to the last stream and I'm going to pull that clip up because I'm getting really irritated with people acting like I'm lying. I do not lie. I do not fib. I do not bullshit.
Pull it up.
Hey, Chris, you got anything else you'd like me to rake you over the coals on? Do you have any other stupid statements?
Yeah, so what I want you to do is I want you, because you seem to think there are independent variables to Cavendish, I want you to tell me what they are.
We already have done.
Yeah. No. He asked me. I'm going to tell him.
Tell me.
All right. The variables are the distance between the weights, between the large weights and the small weights.
Is that the independent variable or the dependent variable?
That's the independent variable, and the dependent variable is the torsion on the torsion balance.
Okay, so your hypothesis is if distance, then torsion bar twist.
No. My hypothesis is that attraction between masses is related to distance. That's I don't have to say that. You asked me what the hypothesis was.
Are you getting flustered there, Dr. Bob?
No, not a bit.
Yeah, you are.
It's just very hard for us
All
to
right,
deal with
quick vote
morals.
on the panel. Do I feel flustered?
No.
Do I feel quite confident that I can basically outthink this guy with about 6 beers in me?
So then let's go.
Well, I think you could do it with 10 beers, Bob.
So you're
all right. So listen, Sonny. What? Go ahead.
I don't hate him.
I don't hate him. I don't even know who he is.
Let me make this clear. I don't hate him. I hate stupidity because it is fucking 2019.
Okay, so let's
that works for
continue?
me.
So Sean, can we continue? Okay, so Dr. Bob said the distance is the independent variable. The independent variable is the cause of the dependent variable. So if distance, then torsion bar twist.
Yes.
Okay, great.
What's your freaking point now?
That has nothing to do with gravity.
Oh, in what way?
Because his gravity is not in his hypothesis.
What?
What's my hypothesis?
Oh my.
Hold on a second. It is his hypothesis because there is no hypothesis to Cavendish.
I've already given you the hypothesis.
Hold on. What's your hypothesis then? Okay, what's your question? What's the question? It's movement due to potential energy turned into kinetic energy.
Wait, am I having a stroke? Bob, you're the doctor. Am I
I gotta go on mute. I'm sorry.
Movement due to potential energy turned into kinetic energy. If you have a ball on the ground, it's not moving, right? There's no acceleration. If you have to lift for that thing to fall and to then say, oh, look, it's gravity. You have to put in potential energy. You have to put in potential energy. You have to lift. The ground did. Yeah.
So what serious.
So what happened? So what if you take the ground away? What will happen to the ball?
Okay, well that's completely unrealistic. That would never happen. We're talking about the Earth. Well, then it would fall until it hit the next patch of dirt.
Well, it fell.
If there is a place for it to go and you open up that place, it will fall due to potential energy. It has potential energy.
What?
Okay, my turn to ask a question.
You're butting to the chops there, Bob, I know.
Well, that's a negative, and I don't prove negatives, so sorry.
You don't prove much of anything, do you, Chris?
No, that's right.
Caused by what?
Yeah.
That's right.
Right.
It's the same concept.
So, Chris,
Same concept.
Chris, if it is the sorry.
Well, it's the same concept, and I mean, I don't know what everyone's laughing.
And not just fall, accelerate. All right, let's just for a second assume that it is, as Chris says, the.
Okay, if you let a helium balloon go, it goes up, right?
No.
We're talking about the ball.
The question,
back
Chris.
to the ball. Back.
Uh-huh. Density.
Density is not a force. Except you'd go up, so.
No, that doesn't make any sense.
Neither does saying density. Hi there.
Wait. It's even simpler to understand in a vacuum.
How is it not density? No. Yes. No.
No, you're wrong, Sean.
No, that's way wrong.
He's totally right. Right.
It's not the density of the air pressure, it's the density of the materials of the ball.
The material of the ball, thank you.
I have a question. Please. May I?
It's not more dense than the material of the ball. What do you mean, why? With helium in it?
It's dense.
A balloon with helium? Is that what you're talking about? Okay, it has helium in it. The helium inside of the balloon is less dense than air. Now, hold on. You said the basketball just has a certain PSI in it. You just said that the basketball had a certain PSI in it, correct?
So hold on. Can you hold?
Not
hold
less dense than the atmosphere. Why do you keep saying you're less dense than the atmosphere?
Yeah, that's just. It is. So can I tell you something? So even ballers will say it's the force of what's known as buoyancy and density due to gravity. So they're not disputing density and buoyancy. They just say the cause is gravity.
The buoyant force depends upon a downward force to be a thing.
Sean, may I ask a question? That's right. Is density a force that moves things? Is density a force that moves things?
If you give density or mass like that, what you're talking about, the potential, like if you're raising it and dropping it, then it becomes a force. Yes.
Sean, can I have
Sean, the chat's saying that someone's audio is muted.
All right, we're good to
go. Hey, Sean.
Yeah.
Can I respond to the density argument?
Go ahead.
Okay. So imagine that you have a soccer ball in a vacuum. You can make this at home. You can put a bead in a vacuum chamber. That bead or that soccer ball shouldn't move according to the density argument because there's the same density above it as there is below it. So unless there's another outside force pulling on that, then it should stay suspended in the vacuum chamber. However, since there is an outside force, gravity, pulling on it, it falls to the ground.
All right, who do you want to respond to that?
Well, at this point, okay. So now that he's made his what he said, now go ahead and Chris or any of the flat earthers, can you please explain it? Please explain it. And go ahead, 2 minutes.
Okay, I'll take it, and I'm probably gonna have to go, but I appreciate being on.
And Chris, in your defense, you were invited for a one-on-one between me and you. I would like to do that where there's not a full band because it does get hectic. I get where the whole everyone on one at certain times kind of sucks, but it's kind of how it is when only one person's talking and everyone's all Glovers. But we're gonna get that one-on-one if you still wanted to.
Sean, I'd gladly host a one-on-one between you two on my channel if you want.
Anytime. So Chris, if you got to go, I'm perfectly fine. But just know that I am fully aware that you did expect a one-on-one coming here. I want to make that very clear to everyone else.
Oh, no worries. I'll just answer that person's question real fast before I have to go. At least my understanding.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm not saying I'm right on everything or 100%. These are my understandings of these things. But anyways, I mean, so what this person's talking about, even in a vacuum, you're talking about what's called relative density, right? So the density due to relativity of the medium that object is in. So let's just say, I can't remember what they said the object was, a ball. I think it was, right? So let's say you have a ball. Let's say the ball is in the vacuum, but the air has not been yet evacuated, okay? You drop the ball and it falls because the ball is more dense than the air around it. And I don't think that's even a dispute at this point. Or if it is, then I'm unaware of that. But let's just say that happens, right? It's more dense than the air around it. Now, let's say you turn the vacuum on and you evacuate the air inside the vacuum. So you went from an actual dense medium known as air to no density at all. So it only makes sense that the ball still falls because you're in an even less dense of an environment. And with that, I'll have to drop.
Okay. Thanks for being on, Chris.
I'd love to respond to that, even without Chris on the panel, if that's possible. So the problem with that is, again, there is no reason for it to fall down. You're saying it's just because there's no medium, so it's going to fall. But I have to ask, where does the actual vector come from? The actual physical downward acceleration, why is that still a thing?
That's my question. How does the ball know what's up and what's down?
Seeker Find, Mind of God, you guys want to?
Can I ask a couple questions related to gravity? And it's not, I'm not going to rehash stuff that
I swear to God, if you say the word orthogonal, I am going to shoot myself.
No, I won't.
Don't say density either.
No, I won't. I'm not. I come in peace. I'm just genuinely asking. So, just if a person's standing on a bench or a table, just for our understanding, if the table is removed, you are saying that the explanation for why that person falls to the earth is not simply the table moves, that person has an intrinsic force pulling on it, wanting to get connected to the earth, but the bench is in the way, correct? Is that the way to understand gravity?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Okay, but so the explanation for the person falling to the ground is not simply all the variables and things related to the bench being removed. It is rather the mass of the person intrinsic has a desire due to gravity to be connected to move towards the earth, to be attracted to the earth, right?
Yeah, more or less.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, to just clarify, what that force is always there, whether the bench is there or not. That downward accelerating force on the person is always there. So as soon as the bench is removed, you would begin accelerating.
Okay, so mass has an intrinsic property known as gravity, and it's mathematically modeled with that F equals G m1 m2 over r squared.
Yeah.
And that is the sort of not power, but the force. I don't want to use force just to get confused, but that is the strength with which it's pulling towards another mass.
Yeah,
correct?
let's just call it the acceleration.
Okay. No, I don't like calling it, but okay, fine. Acceleration.
Yeah.
All right, that's cool. I just wanted to clarify.
Okay. That would actually be a force. That's the force of gravity.
Yeah.
Fg equals big G times little m times big M divided by r squared. That's the force. That's a force.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to be. I was trying to even take one step back and assess the cause, And so, you guys can use the understanding.
I mean, if you don't want to view it as a force, you could go into Einsteinian physics and view it as the warping of space-time, which can change the locality of things. And that manifests within Newtonian physics as an accelerating force.
Probably the easiest way to look at it is Newtonian gravity kind of describes the force and Einsteinian gravity kind of describes the cause.
Do they work together?
Our biggest issue, and I don't want to speak for other flat earthers, is we can only experience the result. We cannot experience the force, the physicalness of the force. That's our.
Do you mean that you can't create that force? Is that your issue?
No, we just agreed it's intrinsic to mass. I'm not going to argue with that. It's let's assume that's the case. I'm not going to squabble. But do you at least concede what I'm saying from a conceptual? I know you don't agree with it, but we can't experience it in a physical way. It's just what happens. That's what gravity did. I'm not going to be rude.
Don't you feel
so you're saying, like, if you yourself got up on a step and then jumped and you went down.
Let's not even jump, because that adds more complication. I just said, let's say you're standing on a bench and then the bench was removed.
Well, if you were standing on the bench and we pulled the table out from under you.
Yeah.
I'm confused, but
you would fall, yes, and that's an effect of the gravity. And that is you personally experiencing that effect.
Isn't the weight you feel on your legs physical effect?
Yeah, because remember, you don't actually weigh anything. You have a mass, and your weight is the gravitational force acting on that mass. So your mass is going to be the same no matter where you are. But if you went to somewhere with less gravitational attraction,
top of a mountain,
you would weigh less.
Yeah.
Well, it's even simpler than that. It's it's acceleration from any cause acting on your mass is what you feel is weight. That's why gravitron works at a carnival. That's why if I take you up in the air and go into a sudden dive, you feel weightless.
It's why I have to use a warp. That's why I have
That's
to
why
use a
when you
walking
turn
stick.
tight,
'Cause
when
my,
you-
yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, my leg hurts because, you know, I have to use a walking stick because my leg hurts because I've got an injury, and the force pulling down on it, you know, that's me experiencing that force, that pain. That's a physical result of the force. I wouldn't have a lot of that if gravity wasn't pulling me down. Does that help?
Yeah, I'm just I'm not trying to be quarrelsome. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. But yeah,
that's fine.
Yep, it helps.
So sorry to cut you off, Bob.
Well, it's time for me to get home anyhow. My wife's missing me for some reason. I don't know why.
Bob, I definitely thank you for being on. From other past experiences, thank you for keeping your cool. I do appreciate it.
Bob, one question before you go. Just a thought experiment that I posted on my channel, just to bounce it off of you. And again, I come in the spirit of engineering and science, nothing argumentative. So let's say let's again use a level, and I know that it's idealized and there's not a perfect one, and Rumpus mentioned that in a recent hangout. So let's for now assume everything is idealized for the moment, smooth surfaces and all that stuff. So let's say we have an oblate sphere that is the exact dimension of Earth, and then we have a flat surface like a millimeter above it, and flat meaning not I don't know, now it's confusing. Flat is like straight, I guess.
Okay. So tangential to it.
Yeah, exactly. Tangential. So at least from a theoretical perspective, and this is possible to be made physically, do you at least agree in an idealized sense that if a level moves along the tangent, it will not record a level reading throughout the entire journey? Okay.
Now, if you look at a tangent line to the radius of the Earth on the Earth, okay? If you place the level at that tangent, at that spot, it will read level.
Agreed.
Because that is a tangent line and remains straight.
Yeah.
It is a line, and the Earth curves away from either end of that.
Yes.
As you move that level out towards the end, the bubble will go out. And as a matter of fact, if you look at it, it will be moving up an incline both ways.
Yeah. No, that's fine. So I just wanted to confirm.
That's how I feel it would be.
I mean, to help you conceptualize that, imagine you were on that straight line and you were walking towards the edge. If you were at the middle and walking towards the edge, it would become increasingly more like you were going uphill.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, if you started on the Earth at the point where that tangent line met and started walking alongside that tangent line, it would be progressively higher and higher, and
agreed. Yeah.
As you went.
If we're on a ball, yeah, I hear you.
If you're on a ball, yes.
So Bob, just if that tangent line is elevated a millimeter, 10 feet, 100 feet, 1,000 feet, it's going to be the same result, correct? It's not the fact that it's tangential that matters in this experiment, right?
No, it absolutely is the fact that it's tangential that matters. It doesn't necessarily have to be in contact with the
That's what I meant. Yeah.
surface, but it has to be tangential to the radius at some point. And it doesn't matter if it's a millimeter up, a foot up, or a mile up.
Okay, so at least conceptually, and again, I haven't done this, but just to differentiate the views on this, is that a flat earther would believe that if we are to construct a flat surface elevated in space, and it's fairly flat, like it's not, and I don't mean like roughly flat, I mean like it's actually flat, and we were to put a perfect level across it, it would experience it would output something different than over a oblate spheroid shape, right?
Correct.
Okay, so that's one way to articulate the technical differences. There's a lot of them, obviously, but conspiracy.
Well, if you would, let me expand on that a little bit.
Yeah.
If you take a tangential line to the radius of the Earth and make that line intersect the radius perpendicularly 1 mile above the surface.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can visualize that. Yeah.
On a sphere, that'll go out, and as you move out, that line, which is flat, would get higher and higher and higher based on your reference.
Yeah.
It's further from the surface of the Earth. On a flat Earth, no matter where you came on that line, it would be 1 mile above the surface.
Exactly right. Yep.
The other thing is on a spherical Earth, it would be level at the perpendicular line to the radius, and as it went out, it would be indicating an upward bubble on both sides.
Yeah.
On a flat Earth, it would remain level anywhere on that line.
Agreed. Okay, fair enough. So that's one thing. Again, it's idealized and can be nitpicked from both sides, but that is one way of many to articulate a sort of technical difference between flat earthers and ball earthers.
Yes.
Correct?
I mean, well, can I just say, like, to make those kind of measurements, though, you know, it would have to be massive, obviously, on the Earth for that tangential line that moving the level along it, for actually you to make a reading.
Craig, I don't think you're right on that, and I'll tell you why. There's another way of doing it.
Okay,
let's hear it.
All right. The other way of doing it is that when you're standing on a point on the Earth at a radius, you place a level, and that will be perpendicular to the radius at that point, correct?
Agreed, yep.
Now.
And Bob, it doesn't matter what size the level is. It's still a...
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, we can take a 3-foot builder's level.
But let's
you know
just
how good I am. You know how good I am with 3-foot builders levels.
But let's just say it's bigger, right? The level itself is the tangent, so it doesn't matter what size it is, right? Do you agree with that statement?
Well, no. I'm kind of cooking a little different chicken here. Let's say it's a 3-foot level for a moment.
Okay.
So we'll use that 3-foot level to represent your big flat line at that point. Now, we should be able to find out what's the best way of doing this. If we take the longitude of that line, we can probably calculate what that perpendicular line would be, correct?
Sorry, man. Can you say that once more?
All right. So we can take a position on a sphere and calculate a longitude for it.
Yes. Okay.
So at the North Pole, we can calculate that's 90 degrees north, and we can calculate what the level would be at that point.
Can we just, and I'm not trying to be, again, rude, but like, can we just use spherical coordinates? You're saying you could find a point on that sphere.
Okay, let's take 90 degrees north, a line of, 90 degrees north latitude, and we place a level on that point. That level will go out at 0 degrees, correct?
Okay.
And 180 degrees, I guess.
Okay, it's on the top of the sphere.
Okay, well, let's make that 0 degrees as the top of the sphere, and then it'll go at 90 and 270 degrees, correct?
Okay, yep.
Now, if we drop that down to 45 north, and we put it perpendicular to the radius of the Earth there, we will have a level, correct?
Yes, it has to.
However, it's at 45 degrees north. It's no longer at 0 degrees. So the direction of both ends of the level will by necessity change. Yep. That would confirm that it would be a spherical Earth. If they were in the same direction, it would be a flat plane, correct?
Yeah, that's just that's not so much the level itself. That's just changing orientation in 3 space over a sphere. The actual level
over a sphere, yes, but it's a way of telling whether you're on a flat Earth or a spherical Earth.
Fair enough, but just the journey to get there would be all the information. But I get your point. I mean, just the journey from that thing getting from one point to another would.
Well, you have one person at the North Pole. You have one person at 45 degrees north. They set a level in place right there, and tell me what stars on each end of the level.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that would work.
All right. Now, if they were the same stars, the Earth would be flat. If they were different stars, the Earth would not be flat by definition.
The only problem is you're using a point to calibrate that. That's way the hell in. Again, I'm not trying to undermine your point, but like it would be nice to have something closer. Like that we could actually talk.
Well, it's got to be far enough away that you're not dealing with 90 versus 89 degrees north.
Yeah,
and what you're say at least 10 or 15 degrees away. That will give us a clearly identifiable difference, and that's what we're looking for. If they are the same, it would be a flat plane.
Yeah, that's the
if
stuff.
They are not.
Stuff like that is rigorous. Change in orientation to me is
yes.
rigorous. Yeah.
So you see, it's a variation on your problem, but it's a little bit more practical because you can move a 3-foot level a lot better than you can build a 1,000-foot perfectly flat level in space.
again, not to undermine the theory of what you said, I just don't like the star piece. But fundamentally, what you said, I mean, I agree with. If it's they're pointing.
A star is an example. You could use a different thing.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yep. Fair enough.
And if you agree with that, then quite frankly, you can do the same thing with a sextant against the North Star.
Yeah, we're trying to do linear, repeatable, and off the shelf, but sure. That's
sextant, linear to the horizon, and then angle to the North Star would give you the same thing. Guys, I got to get it going. I may be on a little bit later, but thank you all very much for having me.
Nice to speak to you again, Bob.
Now,
Hey, Bob.
and
Hey,
by
Bob.
the way, that's a great conversation. You know,
Yeah, well,
that's
no,
a lot
I appreciate
different.
it. I
That's a
mean-
lot different than dealing with Chris. You know, you're not aggressively obtuse.
Yeah, and Chris
This is a great question, and this is a good way to find an answer too.
Right. Yeah, agreed.
Take care, man.
Yep. See ya. Peace.
Hey, Bob. I like it all nice and calm.
Yeah. Hey, mind the God, how are you getting on with your whole flat Earth discovery? Has your thoughts changed at all?
I know you guys can sense that, you know, everything is heating up and then emotions get evolved. So I think that part I'm realizing I have to be a lot better at. And George,
Me too, very much so.
yeah, like George recently, him and I had a hangout, and I realized I disliked him with very little kind of reason to. You know, I know that I've heard some things in the past, but for the most part, I'm starting to try and just approach this with just the technical piece as much as I can, even though, like I said, other things get involved. But
I feel like you're more willing to actually have questions answered than, especially when we debated on the non-sec. You seemed extremely closed-minded then, if you don't mind me saying. And I think recently you might have opened up the way that you're thinking. Whether you believe in flat Earth or not, I think that's a good progress.
Yeah, I think what I'm open to, and I think a lot of people are very excited about now that there's fervor, is like, how do we prove it to ourselves? You know, and it's like, I think the cool thing about Sly's test, you know, that he's doing and expending energy, and I applaud that. And then even if it does show flat, that to me, it's not like, okay, it's flat. No, it's like, I would then want to do it myself. We should reproduce it in different parts of the world. We should criticize the experiment. You know, this is a good vibration, you know, in my opinion. All I'm saying is I'm trying to put more of my engineering hat on than my religious hat as much as I can. So
yeah, and I think that's an extremely good way to go, because I honestly believe that religion should be left out of the discussion of what shape our planet is. You've agreed to me before that, you know, the Bible isn't a science book. You know, whether you believe that God referenced the world as flat or what, you know, it's not a science book. You know, it's a philosophy book, if you will, right?
Yeah, and I'm convicting myself in the sense that those emotions do absolutely nothing to help the technical discussion go forward. So yeah, fair enough.
I mean, I know for you, the religion thing relies on if RFID happens in the next decade.
Yeah. Yeah, I said 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah, so that's why I'm a little bit more anxious about the result, but I also can't let that cloud the natural progress of discovery. But I do think it's cool. I think that there's people who have more and more, you know, quote unquote skin in the game. That might not be the best term, but you know, I think there's going to be something that is going to settle this, just because of how smart people are. You know, we could make fun of you guys and say you're dumb. You could say we're dumb, but broadly speaking, there are smart people who have an interest in this fundamentally. So
yeah, there is some, but there is a lot of people, and I would say that Chris was one of them, who are wanting to remain willfully ignorant. They will literally just ignore what they're told over and over again.
I've never heard. Who is that guy? Actually, I don't think I've come across him. Who is just? Who is Chris? Yeah,
Sean, you know a bit more about him. Who Chris was. All right.
But I think the more we can all come to create a sort of repository of technical differences, not who's smarter and all that. And again, that is debated after, you know, and probably will not matter once it's decided one way or the other. We will humble ourselves and go back to ball, or vice versa. Something else will happen for you guys. But creating a repository of differences that are technical, to me, is valuable. We just created one there. We fundamentally agree that if I were to create a perfectly flat surface above ball earth and then a level would be run across it, it cannot stay level throughout its entire journey. You could debate the level's not precise and perfect, which it's not. You could debate it didn't go far enough and all these kind of things, but fundamentally that is a technical difference that we have. If you're a flat earther, you have to believe that a level can only stay level along a flat surface. And then, you know, if one were to create that, again, I'm not saying it's easy, because Craig, your point is valid. It would take miles potentially to register something like that.
I mean, depending on how accurate the level was. I mean, would you trust the results of a digital level over a physical bubble one? Because, you know, they're in the same way that a ring laser gyroscope is infinitely more accurate than a mechanical gyroscope. But I know flat earthers have issues with the fact of, you know, that it's a kind of a different machine, as it were.
Dude, I'll sound dumb saying this, but I didn't know that there were issues with levels not being precise, to be honest. Like, only when Rumpus said it in a recent hangout I didn't know that there were certain tolerances, and some are better than others. And yeah, I'm assuming when they're engineered and manufactured, I don't know how you would level a level, but I would assume they have ways to calibrate and make sure.
Bubble level's easy to level.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them have digital ones actually have gravimeters in them to help tell which way it is. But again, you would have an issue.
We wouldn't use that. We would use a physical one. Yeah, but again, just conceptually, that's one, you know, that we could, at some point in our lifetime, that would be able to get done. I can't tell you when, but that's not like using rocket science or some crazy theory or tools that no one has ever heard of. That's a level and a flat surface. You know, that's physical, right? It's not like draw me a free body diagram and then tell me where gravity comes from and all that. I'm not trivializing those discussions. I think they're good, but all they're just going to end up being is like, what causes what, you know? And like, your theory works for you guys because you have an explanation to draw a free body diagram and explain why something's moving. And then we would just say that, generally speaking, a flat earther would probably just say there's like a natural propensity to go down, and then its weight versus what's in its surrounding environment would be all the variables we would need to govern its motion.
Yeah, and that's the where I think globe earthers differ. Is you would say, you know, you would settle with that natural propensity to go down, whereas I mean, I'm pretty sure I can speak for the other ball earthers in here. We would always ask the question why. Am I right, guys?
Yeah, fair enough. No, and that's that's the model you guys would have to draw the forces that are governing that motion, you know, and that's fine. I mean, we would have to come up with different rules, and then we would not necessarily need, again, I haven't done this in an exhaustive sense, but I'm just thinking if I were to be forced to draw a free body diagram of an item that's in space and then let go, I wouldn't have to reference anything external to what I could see, like the atmosphere, the weight or the mass of the item, you know, all its distance to the surface and all that kind of stuff. So
I find it also interesting that it'd be good if we could all, when we do get a good repertoire going with any flat earthers, we find a common ground with terminologies, because we'll say one thing in an explanation, and then we'll always get the rebuttal in a different explanation using different phrasing and different terminologies. It may mean similar, but we've got to meet on a common ground with knowing what mass is, what density is, what.
Yeah, and I think that's a problem with, say, the quantum erasers and the Nathan Oakleys, because they will only accept the definitions that they think are valid, and it's because they have this whole science has been hijacked, and you know it's all about theory and stuff, but it's not. You know, we call density because it's density. It's not a force. We call, you know, buoyancy a force because it is a force. You know, it's not that science has been hijacked. It's that these things are facts. So when they try and change the meaning of actual words, I find it very hard to even have a conversation with them.
Can I relate mass to density at all?
Well, more mass is going to have more density. Yeah, if it's within the same volume.
Yeah, I've just heard it explained in some way about the density, and I'm going, are you trying to explain it as mass or density? You're like, yeah.
I mean, like if you had a tennis ball and a steel ball of the same size, the steel ball is going to have more density because there's more mass within that volume.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Unbiasedly, do you guys think that gravity is explained like it's an attraction, or that it behaves like an attraction?
Yeah, well, it manifests as an accelerating force towards masses. So yes, it's attraction.
Well, once you get into higher level physics, it's more described as energy, and but I'm sure if we started saying that, it would confuse flat earthers even more.
Yeah, I mean, we can describe it as a force because it creates acceleration, and we can use the equations of force to explain it, and the model makes sense. But yeah, you're right. When you go into the higher physics of actually what it is, there's a lot more behind it.
Which is where I can't go. I'm not a physicist.
What's the root of that 9.8 meters per second, Craig? Is that in an idealized situation that occurs? What's the parameter?
Well, pretty much whatever on the world, you will experience a downward accelerating force of 9.8 meters per second squared. It can be measured the same wherever you are.
It's just the atmosphere has to be homogeneous or something like that. Like, it doesn't have to be a vacuum. It just has to be.
Well, obviously, there's other forces that there's a reason why there's terminal velocity, because you have like air drag and air resistance and force and stuff acting against it. But that doesn't mean that the accelerating force has disappeared. It just means that there's other forces that are equaling it out.
I understand. So you can always count on that one. It's just other things will either constipate that or amplify it, right? If there's additional force or resistance force. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Sasha, you sound quite smart. Did I get that right?
What? Sorry, I was watching Minute Physics.
I was trying to explain terminal velocity with regards to the accelerating force.
Okay, so that number is intrinsic then to the mass itself and the shape of the Earth, right? Because so that number would change when the big M is different, right? If it's in a different environment, like the moon or something.
Yeah, for figuring out the gravitational force on you, right. Let's say you're 70 kilograms. That is the second M, and the mass of the Earth is the first M.
Yeah, but that whole thing is that 9.8 is intrinsic to being in the area, the vicinity of Big M Earth, right?
Yeah. That, not everywhere in the universe is going to have that accelerating force. That would depend on the two masses that we're talking about.
Understood.
Technically, gravity is defined using energy and momentum, not mass, which is why light is affected by gravity. But mass certainly does have energy and momentum, which is why we use it as that in that explanation.
Okay. So that's okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, just to clarify, Harry Wheeler in the chat says gravity, it does vary slightly all over the Earth, depending on obviously how close you are to the radius of the Earth, but it is 9.8 pretty much as an approximation everywhere. So
it's oblate, so it would have to. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I just wanted you to make sure that you understood what I meant there.
This is only fractional. It's not a.
Yes, but I mean, it still will change the the 9.8 slightly.
No, I wasn't even saying that to be mean. That would explain the variation because the shape is not perfect. Yeah, so fair. All right, I'll mute. I'm here if people want to chat. I didn't want to hog it. I just wanted to.
No, that's a good conversation. I've actually.
This is a way better conversation than I've had most.
Yeah, we're not talking all over one another like everyone does.
Yeah, well, it's very hard when you can't get your actual point out with people like Chris. See Confined, you got any questions?
I have one more if you guys will hear it.
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
So I proposed this like building test, tilty buildings, but I actually realized it might be slightly even easier is that with all this stuff with wide angle lenses, and I'm not an expert, and that's my next contribution because I feel like I just kind of sit around and talk, but I want to start understanding wide angle lenses more. And does anyone have a feel for what the furthest distance from one point to another has been captured on a any kind of camera? We get from the horizon and the distance. That's relatively easy to sort of calibrate, but does anyone
in one single picture or?
Yeah, from left to right. What's the furthest from left to right a camera has been able to recognize?
Well, we have 360 cameras, and they capture about 180 degrees, and then a little over 180 degrees, and then stitch those two images together.
But I think in my case, it would have to be in the same image to do what I'm proposing.
Yeah. Well,
probably about
maybe if you use
180
one side of a 360 camera.
Yeah,
I know Reds and Sean did a photograph of the ocean to test for eye level for the horizon with a drone at elevation, and they compressed the image just for experimental giggles.
Except 360 cameras do fisheye big time.
Yeah.
But I guess all I'm getting at is, and again, this is I think possible in our lifetime, is just shooting. It might already be possible, but just shooting lasers from the ground perpendicular to the surface, and something registering the non-parallelness. One evidence of that would end this whole debate.
You know what needs to happen is we need to have two lasers shooting in opposite directions across water. Because right now, whenever that experiment is demonstrated, I mean, Discovery Channel has done it, National Geographic has done it, flat earthers will always say that they just tilted the laser up.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have two lasers that are proven to be level with one another, pointing in opposite directions, or you can use mirrors or something to ensure that, then they should both be going up away from the Earth instead of
they should
just
cross
one.
paths. Basically,
Yeah.
they cross paths. Yeah.
No. Two lasers starting from the same origin, going in opposite directions, and then they should both be higher off the ground at a farther distance than they are at the starting. Because right now, when it's done, the flat earthers always claim that they just tilt the laser up.
But more fundamentally, the behavior of lasers up in different places on Earth, I think I'm not trying to cut off your point, but I think fundamentally that is a nice way to do it, because the further up you can see and the further apart you can see with cameras, it'll make the curve, or non-curve obvious, right?
Wouldn't you want to use something that wouldn't be susceptible to refraction and have that as a point that people will bring up, like,
So
that's right.
The nice thing about this, though, is that it would be, if it's done in a controlled way, it could be consistent. So let's say even beam divergence, and that's obviously real, even if the image was like that, you would think that it would be consistent if the two lasers are...
And do you know what describes beam divergence? That's gravity. Gravity describes light curving around the globe because light has energy and momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And so it confirms.
Let's just say
affected by that gravity.
Like I get what you're saying, that there's a way to model it, but you see what I mean? Like visually, you can't say, like, all I'm saying is if you use two lasers and you shot them up on two different parts of Earth, and you shot them up, and then they're obviously not parallel, and but they're diverging consistently. It's getting fatter. You could kind of take you could do image processing and go in and latch onto them.
Well, if you're just shooting them in opposite directions.
No, upwards, 90 degrees.
Upwards, 90 degrees upwards. And then what should they do? At different points.
If they're parallel and they're far enough apart, and if they even if they're off a bit, it would be some kind of curve.
Yeah,
it wouldn't
makes sense.
Then actually you could calibrate. That's actually, to me, I don't understand why people don't use that to come up with the radius of the Earth, because that's rigorous. Like you could do that.
You could get on the tallest building you could find, and then shoot the laser from the ground, and then be up the toppest point, and then register the gap at the top compared to the gap at the bottom. That'd show you something.
Yeah, things like that. Lasers and all that, I think, are the way to go. But do you see what I mean? You could even come up with the radius of the Earth that way. Again, if this can be done in a controlled way, because as long as both of those items are sitting on Earth somewhere physically and they're shooting up, then the divergence pattern using trig, you could just infer what the radius and the whole thing is.
But then you're gonna get a whole bunch of responses that say, "Oh, they just tilted the laser."
no, but the nice thing about this is like, and the same with Sly's test is like, even if it shows flat, doesn't mean like we just start singing and dancing in the streets. That needs to be tested like 50 times, 100 times, everywhere. It should, you know, that's a nice thing about these lasers too. If they're pretty much off the shelf, anybody, you know, in freaking Dubai can do it. People here can do it. India, you know, and then we should all get the same result.
The problem I have is. I guess they haven't done it with 2 lasers, but they've done it with 1 laser, and they've shown it. Discovery Channel's shown it. National Geographic has shown it, and they deny it. They say that this doesn't prove anything. Nobody here is going to accept that.
But Sasha, so if they've shot lasers to the moon, how, like, we should be able to do this, like
yeah.
Like, right? Okay.
I'm not doubting that we should be able to do this. I'm just doubting if the majority of people will accept it because their ideal is already such that.
Here's a thought experiment I had. I live in a high rise, right, in Houston. Imagine if everybody could be given, or like 5 people, 10 people could be given the same off the shelf laser, the same strength, the same properties of the beam, and went on their high rise and then came up with a systematic way to calibrate it so it's perpendicular to the ground, shoot it up. Then you have literally like 50 laser beams that various people can image with drones and all that. You could have like literally a sampling.
You know, I wonder if, you know how they have laser shows, they do this exact thing where I'm wondering if there's a laser show somewhere that would have the supplies, like just 2 lasers that they can just shoot up because they have them already. Yeah.
And this is a bit incriminating, but if you go to strip clubs, a lot of them they shoot lasers. Because that's like the way to find them or whatever. But, you know, there's some strong ass lasers. Like you can see them from far, dude, like far. So.
Yeah. And it's not like this technology is hard to find. And it's probably, I mean, if an air show or something wanted to implement it, it would be easy. They just put out the laser and measure it.
Yeah, exactly. I think something like that would be nice just because, again, it's repeatable.
Or maybe it's already been done. Just nobody was collecting the data for it.
Yeah, you would think that lasers have been shot, even if they're by accident, and it's just no one's captured it with a drone or with a helicopter or with a camera.
I know a site where they shoot the lasers to the moon, right by my house.
Yeah, dude, if they can shoot lasers to the moon, this should be like super easy, right? One would think.
I would think.
Well, yeah, and there's reflectors on the moon. You can reflect those lasers off the moon.
Sasha, yeah, I mean, what you get back from the moon is you know, nothing like what you've sent out, but you know, it's not like you could see the laser come back. You would just need to register the you know, the light waves, but it still, you know, shows that it's been sent out and come back.
And you can measure the distance with that too if you have a calibrated enough system.
Flat Earth promised to come to my Bible studies if it's proved flat, correct?
Yeah, if you can prove the Earth is flat, I will say that God is a real thing.
All right.
Because that would be the only explanation.
Well, you'll do the leading prayer right at the next live stream.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Good afternoon, everybody.
And I'll sit on non sequitur for 2 hours, and you guys can absolutely make fun of me, and I have no issues with that. So.
I'm sure you don't.
If it's proven in some kind of like way like that, where people can repeat it, and it's like, you know, you'd have to be like a complete dingbat to not concede that it's not parallel. The cool thing about this experiment is you have to prove that it's not parallel even by a little bit. It doesn't have to be like blatantly shooting off 2 sides of the Earth, you know, like you could, again, do it a bunch of times and show like, look, I mean, they're diverging.
Well, and then that's one thing, you bring up physics and other sides of the Earth. It doesn't make sense on a flat Earth why stars would be spinning opposite directions in different hemispheres. It doesn't make sense why we can't see the sun at night.
Or why
stuff like that.
You can't use Polaris to navigate with a sextant in the southern hemisphere.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense on a flat Earth.
I like that.
Well,
I like
the
that,
South
experiment
Celestial
idea. I like that idea. The lasers pointing directly upwards.
the South Celestial Pole itself simply refutes the flat Earth.
Is this Brenda, my favorite baller? What's up?
Yeah, the South Celestial Pole all by itself simply ends flat Earth right there.
Because you can measure the magnetic force in the North Pole and the South Pole, and
yeah. I mean, so we don't have to we'll be fair. There's stuff you guys have. There's stuff we have. We don't have to weigh it. What's better or not? But let's.
Well, no. I just want an explanation for how that works on the flat Earth.
I like stuff related to the stars and the moon. And again, I'm not trying to avoid questions. I don't look at that. I literally.
How do you have just a north magnetic pole?
Yeah, do you have that in your house? Like, what do you mean? How are you observing these things? Like,
no, I'm just curious. On the flat Earth, there's just one magnetic pole, right?
Well, I've heard that there's in some models that there's 4.
That's why these things are. Again, I'm not trying to say that those are not useful things to talk about, but I certainly am at the point where I would like off-the-shelf technology that is readily available, thankfully. And again, I give a lot of credit for Sly, and if I knew that he.
God damn it! I think I just ended the hangout. 1 second, guys. Sorry about that, guys.
Rotate one direction in the south and another direction in the north.
I haven't observed that in my life.
No,
I haven't been to the north and
pretty
south.
Easy. It's pretty easy to find, right?
I mean, you could use live webcams, like literally whenever you want, and look at the stars.
And you can go to equatorial photographs showing both poles.
I mean, surely you don't. Just because you haven't seen the fact, the fact that the rest of humanity knows that there is 2 different rotating points, then surely you shouldn't need to see that yourself.
Terry's in here.
Craig, that's support. That's to support what now? Like the Earth is spinning, or is that a curvature thing? What is that?
It would support the Earth is spinning, very much so.
Yeah, but that wouldn't also be rigorous, because you're also, that's an observation that could support it, but you would.
Well, how would it work on a flat Earth? Because on a flat Earth, wouldn't they all have to spin in the same direction, since we're all under the same sky?
Not necessarily.
Respectively.
I mean,
so you're observing 2 sets of stars moving different.
The stars are transverse the sky more like if we're on a flat plane. They'd be more like as if we were all at the equator.
But we don't observe that. Yeah.
I do have to say, Mr. Mind of God, without the beard, you're so much nicer. Thank you.
No.
I don't think it's any different.
But then the Hebrew Israelites get mad at me because they're like, "Why'd you shave your beard? You're going against the law." I can't please everybody.
You're in grace, not the law.
So what is the explanation? Why don't we see stars at the edge of the flat Earth whizzing by?
We haven't been to the edge of the flat Earth.
Yeah, we are.
Well, we've been to Antarctica.
I'm pretty close to it.
I personally have.
I'm pretty close.
Again, that's what we call. That's literally a fallacy called the genetic fallacy. That I haven't seen it, therefore I can't believe it. It's not an argument that should be used.
FEer, we'll call it the non-local fallacy.
No, it's an actual fallacy. It's an actual informal fallacy.
Yeah,
that's the same argument as why you guys in the north can see the northern star, supposed northern star, and I've got a southern celestial pole star. You just can't see that, can you?
Craig, can I ask you a question, please?
Yeah.
Was there not observational thing that we were going to do with people in South Africa, someone in Australia, and someone in South America looking at the same time?
Yeah, I have.
There's people who have done it.
Yeah, one of them dropped out in South Africa, so I'm trying to find someone else. But I'm also trying to find a particular date that it would be possible on, because there's only a small time in the year that I would be able to make that observation where all 3 points would be in the night. So it's going to be in a few months' time before I could even do it, and I need to find someone in South Africa.
You want somebody in Perth? You'd want somebody in Perth then, wouldn't you? Not so much my side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that group work across the earth is also going to be a rigorous thing. Is like people are constantly logging things in a consistent way. That'll prove it too.
Did you ever see Sly's video about everyone doing the observations of the sun and mapping that out? Because that was what 26 people they had in that, was it?
Yeah, there was a few.
Yeah, it's 26.
Yeah.
Why would he name himself Sly? By the way, I don't get that, man.
That's short for his full name.
Oh, okay. It's Sylvester?
Possibly.
Well, there's
I didn't say that, Craig.
I have a question. So have you seen by God? Have you by chance seen the Behind the Curve documentary yet?
I saw it a bit on Rory's channel, and it looked ridiculous.
Well,
I thought it was very fair.
well,
I mean,
basically, but was it Bob Nodell? And Mark Sargent that did the ring laser gyro.
It was apparently Bob says it was a fiber optic gyro, not a ring laser gyro.
Well,
conceptual question.
Well, they were measuring it, and they were expecting 15 degrees drift if it was on a globe, and no drift if it was flat. And to their surprise, they found 15-degree drift, but they wouldn't publish it because they knew that would refute their opinion. What's your opinion on that?
Well, can I ask you a fundamental question, Sasha? Like, how does any device register this whatever movement when it's in the thing that's moving in concert with everything else? Like, how does that work?
If I can answer about a gyroscope in general, like a mechanical gyroscope is something that maintains its rigidity within 3D space once it's spinning. So no matter what, if the Earth was moving, it would show that because the drift of the Earth would register on the fact that the gyroscope was maintaining its original position in space. So
it's part of this reference frame that's moving. How can it be? How is it?
Y'all say that all the time to us, like you can't,
because it's literally designed to maintain its rigidity within 3D space. That's the purpose of a gyroscope.
Well, why would it move on at all on a flat stationary Earth? Because it was observed to move. So why would it move at all on a flat stationary Earth?
Well, see, Bob's answer to why his gyroscope picked up is that the aether is a real thing.
Heavenly energies. Is what
he's very much citing Sagnac and stuff as proof of the aether.
Dude, here, and I'm not saying this to throw any person at the top under the bus, but I trust.
You haven't answered the question yet.
No, but this is part of my answer. I trust a baller like who I know, like on LinkedIn or in my own life, more than Bob Nodell. And I also trust like things that I can hold myself. Like I've never held, or I don't know what a
naturalistic fallacy again. That's the genetic fallacy again. I didn't hold it, so I can't trust it.
And I have a big problem.
That's where we're at, dude. Like I don't understand.
No, it's not. That's just a fallacy.
I have a huge problem with that because in the Bible it says it teaches you to believe in God without seeing God.
Not true.
Or believe in Jesus without seeing Jesus.
Yeah,
one of Jesus' disciples asked to touch where he was crucified, and he said, he had no issue with that.
Faith is
no. It's true. It's true. They teach you to believe without seeing. I go to church. This is what they preach, but then you expect to see it in order to believe it, when your core fundamental idea is believing without seeing. That doesn't make sense to me.
No, it doesn't make sense. No.
It makes perfect sense. It's just denialism in service of a religious dogma.
Because you just quoted something that happened in the Bible as proof of, but did you see what
I didn't say it was
happened in the Bible?
I didn't say it was proof.
No, sorry, I'm referring to.
Point against that. In John 20:29, Jesus himself says, "Because you have seen me, you have believed."
Did you see that?
Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. So
were you there? Were you there?
Did you see Jesus?
Okay, here's the
I'm just like
there's
a little rat that just comes in here.
There is a difference between.
No, that's not called for. What I do is conceptual analysis, and you
I just read you a verse from Jesus himself that says, "Blessed is he who believes without seeing." And now you're just being a rat. So like, what do you do?
Yeah, but if I
just poisoning the well.
If I could just guys, let's keep it calm.
That is a retard.
Mind the God, come on, everyone, please. I'm Fight the Flat Earth, and I'm saying calm down. All right.
All right, fair enough.
My point here is that you're reading that verse from the Bible where Jesus said, "Blessed is he who can believe without seeing," but then that's saying that you're okay to believe without seeing, but then you are saying the opposite when you want proof of the flat Earth. So you literally take the Bible and what it says on faith. You don't have any proof of any of the things.
So is the globe Earth like a religion because we got to believe without seeing or feeling?
No, not at all. Because these things.
No, because we're basing it off of what others have seen.
But Craig, that's a valid. I agree, but I said both. Like Thomas asked to touch the hole, and then in this case, he's also saying it both. Like both are acceptable. It's open to scrutiny. He's saying like one of his disciples asked to like touch the actual hand that was. The nail went through, and he was comfortable with that. And then in another place, he said it's also okay for other people to believe without seeing. It's
if I can respond to Seek and Find there for a second. No, we never within science ask you to believe things. What we do is we ask you to reach a conclusion based on the data and analysis that we have.
Okay, so you don't think there's evidence of God, right?
Absolutely not. No.
You just have to be willing to accept that evidence was carried out in a scientific manner. And that data that was came up with. And
so can I ask the guy a question? I don't know everybody's. Can we take it there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite happy to answer. I mean, I want it known very much that I am an atheist, and very much so. But I am open to a discussion about it.
It's perfect as even the globe model states. You know that things have to be. You don't link that to no creator.
No, not at all.
As perfect as I mean, come on, man.
I wouldn't say that the globe is perfect at all. I mean, certainly not for humans. Pretty much everything on this planet is put here to kill us. I mean, if it was a creator and it was perfection, then surely my little sister wouldn't have been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis at the age of 12.
Yeah,
so you're mad that
oh no, I'm making a point. Why is one thing perfect and not another? If this creator's got the power to make everything perfect, then why does a perfectly lovely young girl has to suffer for her whole life? Why is there poverty? Why is there anything if there's a creator that can just make something so perfect?
Well, if you ask me,
the earth isn't perfect for us.
When you talk about creation and people having free will and stuff it's like free will is a great example of there has to be a duo. There has to be the good and evil. There has to be the good and bad. You can't just have all one-sided. Otherwise, why even create? You know what I'm saying?
Well, who created the creator?
I agree with actually. There's a lot of reason to be atheist in this world, and again, there are a lot of us, and me in particular, have flat Earth as far as a reason to build faith. So I think that it's a fair statement. I think again, all those discussions will just lead to everybody's opinion and subjectiveness.
Well,
the nice thing about this is, in my opinion, once we prove flat Earth, that implies God immediately.
I agree. If the Earth was flat, I think that would be evidence of God.
There you go.
Within physics,
so why not with the globe Earth? I guess will be my
because physics makes sense with the globe, but it doesn't with a flat Earth. So there has to, if the Earth was flat, there would have to be an explanation other than physics.
Wait, minded God, do you deny the NASA? You deny that NASA takes real pictures as well, right? You kind of have to.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think stuff like that is, and Nathan Thompson brought up a great point.
Because that's photographic evidence.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, yeah. Okay.
Photographs are evidence.
And if we're gonna use photographs as evidence for, say, a laser experiment or showing the curve over a long distance, why can't we accept photographs as evidence? Because that is pretty much a photograph of the curve from a long distance that shows a great deal of it. the farthest from point to point.
It's kind of like me saying like, oh, I prayed last night and I had a spiritual experience with Jesus and he loves me. And it's like, well, that's not repeatable. First of all, don't even know if that was a real experience. So the nice thing about the couple things that we were talking about earlier when we were talking cordially before Brenda got here, is that you can repeat them.
Well, you can't. Those photos from space have been repeated several times.
Well, I'm saying I can. Everybody can.
You have to be able to repeat it.
All of us can. Yeah,
you can't take somebody else's word for it.
No,
even though you're taking the Bible's word, which is
no, I don't take the Bible's word for it. If Ball Earth is true, the Bible's gone. If the Mark of the Beast doesn't come out, the Bible's gone. It's trash. It is the most despicable book in human history.
Well, I've got a question then. Is there things that are around you or that you have in your life that you trust is what they are and what they do without having to experiment or try to work out yourself why?
Yeah, everybody does. Yeah, of course. We can't drill down to first principles on everything that I experience in my life. That would be nice. If God exists, only He would know that anyway, because he's the one who would have created physics, the science, and chemistry, and all that. He would be the only one. We'd literally have to ask him if gravity was real and God exists. Like we would have to ask him to explain what caused it, because he caused it.
God didn't create physics; people did.
Physics is a way of explaining creation.
That's where I was going.
Every time Brenda talks, it becomes less and less.
Set your issues aside, dude. Just knock it off.
I feel like you're being quite hostile to Brenda.
Yeah, because we had a discussion earlier about experiments, observations that we could do and were real and physical, but Brenda's already made up her mind. You guys were open to talking about it.
Okay, the conversation
Brenda comes here and knows everything.
Yeah,
right, let's all just take a step back.
Yep.
And
so does Fight the Flat Earth.
A random troll on the internet named Brenda knows everything.
Wow, you were doing so well. You're citing the Bible and then calling somebody a random troll.
That's what Brenda is.
He did more than that. He called me a rat.
A rat. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So
I didn't call him names.
You cite the Bible. The Bible says, "Love your enemies."
It's not a duck. It's a rabbit.
Don't, you're hurting my brain.
Yeah, I'm showing Brenda love by calling out.
That's not love.
Hey there, you're splitting hairs there.
That's not love.
Right,
Jesus also said to bring the people in front of him that don't worship him and kill them right in front of him.
No,
so he's not all loving.
So what is that, a death threat? Are you threatening?
I'm saying Jesus is not all loving. He's bringing terror upon the world. Right.
Is that what you're going to do?
Yeah.
Is that what you're going to do? Start running around killing people?
This is not a representation of what the Bible says. You are not representing what the Bible says.
I can pull the verse up right now if you want me to.
You can pull the verse out of thin air and make it say anything you want, but what you're doing is misrepresenting it.
No, I can read it right now.
You don't have to. You're misrepresenting it.
You don't have to. There's too many verses in the Bible that are open to personal interpretation.
You can make it say anything you want. You can make it say anything you want. In this conversation, we were being polite with respect. We were doing so well. Everyone was getting along, being so polite. Let's keep it that way, please.
Yeah, I'm not trying to reference anything to do with any books or scientific reference to physics or anything. I'm just talking straight off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's fine. But if you hold me to the standard of the Bible, I have to bring out things in the Bible. We don't have to go there. That's fine.
The people in here don't believe in the Bible.
That's fine.
And surely you can see that the Bible itself is a very contradictory book.
Yeah.
That's fine. I think it's better to not go down the Bible trail.
You just did. But here's the point: the people in here don't believe the Bible.
I brought up God, but I wasn't really talking about the Bible. I was just talking.
No, you said more of a creator, so you can find which I kind of understand the thoughts. I mean, the thing is, to believe in Flat Earth, you have to believe in a creator, right? I mean, it couldn't have just come about naturally.
To me, not thinking that there's a creator is kind of a sad existence. But that's just me. I mean, we're to each his own here, you know.
If you look at the top flat earthers, none of them believe the Bible.
Yeah, true. Agreed.
Bob Nadell, Jaron, Mark Sargent. You want to go down the list? D. Marble.
That's fine, but but most of them probably believe in a creator, though.
They believe in some idea. They believe in a lot of people believe in some idea. Okay, but we're talking about referencing the Bible and the Bible being the sort of driving force of flat Earth.
No,
some of them it is. I mean, if you look at Nathan Roberts and Nathan Thompson, I think they base their entire belief on
that's
right.
on the Bible.
And they're frauds. And they're frauds because they behave the same way as Mr. Mind of God here just did. That makes them frauds.
Whoever's speaking, here's Luke 19:27. But those enemies of mine who do not want me to be king over them, bring them here and kill them. And
please do not start reading Bible verses that condemn people. All you do. It's very interesting. It's very interesting that you're only going to read Bible verses that condemn people.
Holding other people to the standard of the Bible doesn't want to hear the Bible.
No, I'm not having it. You're misrepresenting it. No.
Luke 19:27. Read that.
No.
Sean, say something, Sean.
Sorry, but yeah, that triggers me a little bit because what you're doing is misrepresenting it.
No, you don't read the Bible at all. You don't represent the Bible.
Well, yeah, you can't make it. Tell him how he's misrepresenting. Don't just say it's a misrepresentation. Tell him how it's a misrepresentation. My bad. That's my fault. My bad.
Yeah, I think answering the creator question is a good one, and I appreciate the way you asked it, so you can find,
that's why I asked, can we go there? Because I know a lot of people.
And to answer you in summary, no, I don't believe in a creator because the physics of how everything was created is understood and makes sense within the heliocentric model. There's no room in it for a creator, so I can't believe in a creator.
Yeah, I'm an atheist also. And I don't believe God because God is logically incoherent.
We know that.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were all just giving our ideas here.
Hey, just let Sean talk a little bit.
Yep.
Sean, I just wanted to say one thing. So I'm noticing there might be a limit for the number of people that can hop in a call. You might want
usually 10, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Sean, I saw Bob in the chat. He was saying he got disconnected or something. I did. Okay. I got booted as well. Okay.
Apparently you're muted again, Sean.
All I'm saying is my goodbye, guys. Trust me, this time I'm absolutely not saying anything onto the chat. Trust me. Don't worry.
And send me any tips on OBS, please.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was going to say. I'm going to send you a couple because I got a couple really good ones for settings. But I got a couple questions, so I'll send you in the back chat because it matters to the settings. But yeah, no problem. And if anybody needs help with OBS, let me know. I have zero problem helping out. I've been on OBS.
I'm gonna holler at you because
I think we need a class on OBS.
Absolutely.
It's very confusing.
Sean, maybe you should just do a video on how to do OBS.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I did the one for the
on it. Out there.
Well, it's hard to find a good one. That's the sucky part. I did a lot of hours to do it, but I'll put one out. And if anything, like Brenda said, it's going to be a revert of basically those because that's what I learned on. But I mean, you guys can easily find it if I'm uploading them. So either way, and sometimes they don't really do it like the users.
Issues like getting the camera to work and making scrolling text do what I want it to and stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I definitely think it was your PVS. I think you're running high, but I don't know what you're. I gotta ask you some questions to find out what you're running first, because you may be more than capable of it.
Well, it's a new high-end rig, so it should be.
Yeah. Then it's probably your hard. Yeah, we'll do that later. I'll message you tonight. No problem at all.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm going to go to bed myself. Thanks for having me on, Sean. That was a real nice conversation.
Yep. And you have a debate coming up, or no?
Well, actually, they want me on non-sec tomorrow. I'm possibly going to debate in Spurs Chemo's friend Merle.
Oh, lovely.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I got a problem with you guys. Okay, so this is what you got to do, Craig. I want Chemo. He's literally been dodging me before I left Flat Earth because I've got
a direct line to him and a pretty good rapport, so I can set something up.
If you want
to debate him, I'll arrange a debate for you and him on my channel, and I'll moderate it.
Gizmo he's not a flat earther.
Oh no, he's a snake oil salesman.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know if he is or not. I still haven't figured it out. I've had to debate, 3 debates.
Literally am in a server with him every day. He is a snake oil salesman who couldn't possibly believe what he says. He comes up with stuff like sticky air. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think. Hey, Craig, how do you feel about like having a flat earther be a moderator?
I'm more than happy with that. In fact, that was the only way that I could get one guy on the non-sec was to let Nathan Thompson be one of the moderators.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that.
I am more. The thing about the non-sec show is that it is a really, really good, fair show for flat earthers. I mean, when I'm on there, most of the time Kyle shouts at me.
I can kind of agree. I think it's kind of fair, but they are biased. Sometimes the moderators do kind of get in.
They do. Let me finish this real quick because everyone.
Go ahead, Sean. Bye.
But Red, what you said earlier, I'm not sure if you got my message about the court thing. I'm serious. I want to do that.
Which one was that? I'm sorry.
You had
that's a great idea.
You had made a suggestion. No, this is Red. Yes. This Red made the suggestion. I keep saying it. I didn't make it up. Yeah. I just think it's a great fucking idea. And Red, I want to get with you so we can talk about that, dude, and get all the ins and outs of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bob's still having trouble getting in the chat.
Yeah, he wants in.
I can't. I don't know what else it could be. The link is on now. I'll send it again. I'll tell him. I can put it in the back. I mean, I'm there. That's the thing. He's in the room right now.
Yeah, I was in. I couldn't talk. Maybe transferred over to.
How did you get in?
Yeah, how did you get in, Red?
I'm not sure. I just clicked around until it worked.
All right, I got to take off.
I'm like an old man with a cell phone.
I'll turn the lights off for you, Sean.
Thank you, sir. All right, guys. I apologize for the muting of myself, and I'm definitely happy this stream seemed to go a lot smoother, and definitely appreciate everyone that was on the fucking panel. Bob, I don't know why it's not working. I'll try. I'm gonna go ahead and when I end this, I'm gonna play with some more buttons. Keep trying to get in there, and I just sent the Hangout link back there for you. I'm gonna put the link in the chat, guys. That way, anybody who wanted to be in the conversation can be there. I see you out there, Brummy. I'm gonna take off. I'll be back in the Hangout in a little bit. I just gotta take care of some stuff. Won't be live. You guys know the Hangout, that link I just put out there, it's not live anymore, and it will not be live. I just want to make that announcement so everyone knows. Cynics, thank you for being here, my friend. Mind of God, it was a complete 180 from the last time you were here, and I appreciate that. And you are more than welcome here. It's the end of the last part of this stream. Probably the chillest has been in here, and I'm gonna keep it this way. I got a bunch of ideas, like you heard me and Sal talking about, like court thing. It's. I think it could work. It kind of sounds hard to set up, but I think it could work. And Fight the Flat Earth, thank you for being here, man. I appreciate it. Keep up the fight. I definitely like what you said in the interview, Jose, that you're gonna try to lighten it up a little bit, and I think that would be the best thing. Anytime I've heard you just talking, being yourself, talking and just explaining stuff, I think I've learned a lot from. And maybe there are some out there that love the crap out of that, but like I said, and I told you and everyone else, I'm a learning person. I want to learn. I want to understand stuff. So that kind of gets in the way of it. And I know there are people, flat Earth and globe, that want to learn and get, you know, fluffing through that crap just to get to the information. It sucks, man. Got a lot of information, so please just keep doing that. Red, man, more than welcome on my panels anytime. Go, this is your home. Thing you want to do, got it. Terry, you the same. I don't want to forget anybody. Bob, hey man, I appreciate you coming on and keeping your cool. I know how it gets. I completely understand where you're coming from. In regards to what happened on the last stream, Dre, and you're more than welcome here anytime. Damn well that happens. Love you like a brother, and I hope that shit ain't, you know, wasn't personal on your end. You know, feeling personal on your end of what happened. Shit happens. Bond and build again, right? All right, guys. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I'll be around. Going live in the middle of the night. Hey, you know what? Could happen. Could happen. You know, another bullshit fest. What happens? Peace, guys.
But my legs heavy, I don't get it. How come I haven't hit it already? Still working, I'm still learning, I'm still searching, finally earning something, finally turning something called a profit. If I hear you talking shit, don't get caught in it. I'll be popping off and hit your ass, dropping all your shit. Yeah, I promise this, I got promises. You ain't stopping this, cross my shit, you'll be knocked unconscious, bitch. That's the consequence, I got this, I will not quit. Man, I'm on it, honest. I'm gonna launch quick, then I'm gone. It's just a matter of time before I'm over the climb and moving under my prime. Just quit my 9 to 5, I'm rocking, and they watching, cause it's shocking. Dropping all these top 10 songs, so stopping. It's time to live my life, it's time to live, not die. Wish I could slow down time and just enjoy the climb.